Chapter 3056. Lan Mimi was not afraid of Ling Xiao, but the others had to be. Following Lan Mimi's roar, the Sky Demon General, the Earth Demon General, and Chen Luo charged towards Ling Xiao. They had no choice, although they were afraid of Ling Xiao's golden crow talisman. They had to listen to Lan Mimi's orders. After all, they were the ones who proposed to deal with Ling Xiao. They thought that Ling Xiao's greatest trump card was the golden crow talisman, so they did not dare to use it easily. But Ling Xiao used it without hesitation. The golden crow talisman exploded in the air. The cunning heavenly demon general managed to escape because he suddenly stopped halfway and fled in the opposite direction. The poor Earth Demon General and Demon General Chen Luo were too simple-minded. They actually plunged into the terrifying power of the golden crow talisman and were instantly burned to ashes. Then, the soaring heat was absorbed by Little Gold, who had been cultivating in the beast ring. Little Gold had been cultivating in the beast ring these days because Ling Xiao did not want it to be exposed for the time being. Last time, it swallowed all the heat from the golden crow talisman, which directly increased its strength to the peak of the 17th level of hell. This time, it absorbed the heat from the golden crow talisman again. Then, with the help of the 1,000-year fire snake pill that Ling Xiao refined from the 1,000-year fire snake grass, it actually allowed Little Gold to break through its shackles and enter the early stage of the 18th level of hell. Of course, these were all things that happened in the beast ring. The people outside did not know. Only Ling Xiao himself knew about Little Gold's changes. The stronger Little Gold was, the more helpful it would be for his escape today. Brat, without the golden crow talisman, let's see what confidence you have left to fight us. Go, everyone, go. The Sky Demon General roared, and all the warriors of the Sky Demon residence charged towards Ling Xiao. The warriors of the Earth Demon residence and the 13 Demon General residences also wanted to avenge their Demon General. They roared and charged forward. They thought that without the golden crow talisman, Ling Xiao did not have the ability to deal with them. But they obviously underestimated Ling Xiao. 9 Snake General, 9 Snake Poison Domain. Tyrant Blood Demon Dragon Blood Curse. Black Striped Flying Tiger, Tiger Roar. Lava Cerberus, Scorching Hell. Purple Lightning Bull, Earthquakes. The special skills of these special beast souls didn't cost anything. Therefore, it did not matter how Ling Xiao unleashed it. The poisonous gas that permeated the entire 5th floor of the 9-story Demon Pagoda instantly caused countless martial artists to turn purple and fall to the ground. After all, not everyone was like Lin Chuang, who had the ability to be immune to poison. In the face of most enemies, using poison was actually a very good method. After the deadly poison, there were even more terrifying fire snakes and hellhounds that were crazily biting the enemies that were pouncing on Ling Xiao. Tiger's Roar and Earthquake could both stun the enemy and stop their movements. This made it impossible for them to avoid the attacks of the poison and flames. When wounds appeared on many people's bodies, the terrifying effect of the Devil Dragon Blood Curse was revealed. Many Devil Dragon sword court martial artists fell to the ground, crazily clutching their heads and screaming. Even Demon Master Lan Mimi, who was fighting with Sword 18, felt the effects of the Devil Dragon Blood Curse on her. Although to her, the effect was negligible. But in the blink of an eye, the Sky Demon Palace, Earth Demon Palace, and 13 Demon Generals' palaces had lost more than half of their people. Not only ordinary disciples, but also personal disciples who were not strong enough, and even personal guard disciples, deputy commanders, and commanders had died tragically. And all of this was just the beginning. Bloodthirsty plague. Ling Xiao didn't forget to add an even more spicy dish after the Devil Dragon Blood Curse. The bloodthirsty plague, even if only one person was infected, would instantly spread among the crowd. Although this thing's instantaneous lethality wasn't that terrifying, the continuous damage it brought was unbearable for everyone. But in the end, Ling Zhao's destruction was incomparable to the Golden Crow divine talisman. It was very difficult to kill martial artists at the 17th floor of hell in the Yin Yang realm with such an attack. You're courting death. At this moment, the heavenly demon general arrived. Ling Zhao could dodge, but he didn't. At this moment, he needed to take an attack, a powerful attack that wouldn't kill him instantly. The heavenly demon general's attack was just right. It was very powerful, and it wouldn't kill him with one slap. The terrifying attack directly hit Ling Zhao's chest. Ling Zhao's entire body seemed to have caved in. Blood spurted from his mouth. On the way back, Ling Zhao swallowed all the remaining 1,000-year Lingji pills. While his injuries were quickly recovering, he also felt his cultivation see explode at that moment. A gate of hell appeared above his head. F***CK, that kid actually broke through. He broke through at such a crucial moment. Early stage of the 17th floor of hell in the Yin Yang realm. How can this be? The martial artists who were charging at Ling Zhao were all dumbfounded. When Ling Zhao's cultivation was at the peak of the 16th floor of hell in the Yin Yang realm, they were already in a miserable state. Now that Ling Zhao's cultivation had broken through to the 17th floor of hell, how could they fight? All martial artists below the heavenly demon general level. Retreat from the 5th floor. Lan Mimi ordered loudly. She wanted to kill Ling Zhao directly, but she was very surprised by Sword 18's strength. 100 years had passed, and she thought Sword 18 would be dispirited and weak. But she was wrong. Sword 18 showed no signs of weakening at all. Escape? If you don't let me go, don't even think about escaping. Even if I die today, you'll be buried with me. Boundary martial spirit. Ling Zhao finally used his boundary martial spirit. This martial spirit didn't help with attack or defense. It only had one characteristic, and that was to trap himself and the enemy in a space. Unless the enemy killed him, he wouldn't be able to leave. Lunatic. At this moment, Lan Mimi finally realized how troublesome this young man was. He wasn't strong, but he was so difficult to deal with. Other than her, no one else could take him down in an instant. Everyone, don't panic. 9 demon kings. Think of a way to protect everyone. Demon generals, attack with me and kill Ling Zhao. At this moment, Lan Meichin stepped forward. Although she wasn't confident that she could kill Ling Zhao in one blow, but if she joined forces with the remaining demon generals, the situation would be different. Kill. The encirclement of Ling Zhao began. However, Ling Zhao stood there with incomparable coldness in his eyes. Let me show you something even more fun. Bloodsucker demon rats, level 3 power, full release. Ling Zhao's voice rang out. On his body, the internal energy actually began to burn. Blood-red smoke enveloped his entire body. At this moment, any enemy who approached him would be burned and sent flying by the blood-red smoke. The power in Ling Zhao's body was rising crazily. At the same time, the skin on his body was constantly festering and shattering. Chapter 3057. Enduring the pain in his body, he felt the terrifying improvement brought by the 3rd level of the bloody rat. That feeling was both painful and happy. Ever since the sanguinary rats evolved, Ling Zhao had wanted to try out the power of the 3rd level of the sanguinary rats. After all, it would be easier for him to use it in the future if he understood it. 100-fold increase in strength. It was basically equivalent to Ling Zhao's strength skyrocketing from the early stage of the 17th level of hell to the peak of the 18th level of hell. What kind of concept was that? To put it simply, in the entire Demon Dragon Sword Court, except for Demon Master Lan Mei and Sword 18, no one was his match. It was that terrifying. Although this kind of almost heaven-defying ability had huge side effects, at the same time, the effect was also very obvious. Ling Zhao's skin had almost completely turned blood red. The pain in his body was almost tearing him apart. But it didn't matter. What kind of pain hadn't Ling Zhao experienced? What's going on? At this time, even Lan Mei and Sword 18, who were fighting, stopped in shock. They couldn't understand how Ling Xiao could increase his strength to such a terrifying level. Lan Meima was terrified, but Sword 18 was heartbroken, because he knew very well that the more powerful the supernatural power, the greater the burden it brought to the body. He didn't know what kind of pain Ling Xiao would have to endure. Ha 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 ha, Lan Meima, since you're heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. Today, even if I die, I'll drag your sons and the many experts of your demon dragon sword court to the grave with me. Ling Xiao laughed crazily. He didn't want to admit defeat, even in front of Demon Master Lan Meima. He didn't hesitate to use the third level of the Bloody Rat's power at a huge price just to prove one point. No one could bully Ling Xiao. Whoever bullied him, he would make them pay a heavy price, no matter who it was. Everyone, don't be afraid. This must be some kind of illusion. It's just a bluff. Do you really believe that a martial artist at the early stage of the 17th level of hell can suddenly possess the combat strength of a martial artist at the peak of the 18th level of hell? Emperor Lan Meichin said loudly. He was really good at comforting people. After everyone heard this, they believed it. After all, this kind of thing was a little too inconceivable. No matter how they thought about it, it was impossible for Ling Xiao to have a way to instantly increase his strength by so much. Kill! With the Heavenly Fiend General taking the lead, the other Fiend Generals rushed out at the same time, including the Fiend Lord's dozens of children. All of them pounced at Ling Xiao. They were trying to steal the credit. Whoever killed Ling Xiao would be equivalent to avenging Lan Ruo. In the future, in front of the Demon Lord, that person would definitely have a lot of face. However, no one had thought that doing so would result in death. Ling Xiao's eyes were still deep and cold. His blood-red body was no longer as powerful as it was before. However, all of his power had been restrained and integrated into his demonic dragon sword. Kill! Facing the approaching crowd, Ling Xiao's face was terrifyingly cold. He slowly raised the demon dragon sword in his hand. Then, the blood-red flames on the demon dragon sword soared. Streaks of blood-red sword chi formed around him. Mystical flame, sword technique, bloody rain wind. This was a variant move of the fire rain burst. It could only be used in the state of the bloody rat demon, and its power was much stronger than the fire rain burst. At that moment, all of the people attacking Ling Xiao suddenly stopped. They could say that Ling Xiao was bluffing, but that terrifying attack and those streaks of sword chi contained great lethality could not be fake. This kind of energy was completely above everyone except the Demon Lord and the 18th Blade. Retreat! Quickly retreat! Demon Lord Lan Mimi suddenly shouted. Ling Xiao, how dare you? Why wouldn't I dare? Idiot! Ling Xiao looked at Lan Mimi sarcastically, and the terrifying sword chi was released like a storm. It was really a bloody rain, when all of the sword chi broke through the air. Those people standing in front of Ling Xiao were all turned into blood in an instant and scattered on the ground. The 13 demon generals of the Demon Dragon Sword Court were all killed by Ling Xiao in an instant. And Demon Lord Lan Mimi's more than 80 children were also completely killed at the same time, including Lan Hai and Lan Meichin. However, similar to Lan Ruo's situation, although Lan Meichin and Lan Hai's physical bodies were destroyed, there was a strange energy that shot into Lan Mimi's body. Then it disappeared. Of course, not many people saw this scene because everyone was stunned. Everyone's face was filled with incomparable horror and disbelief. Dead. The demon generals were all dead, and all the disciples, commanders, and deputy commanders of the Sky Demon Residence, Earth Demon Residence, and the 13 demon generals' residences were all dead. The other demon generals' residences only had dead demon generals. They were really incomprehensible. Even if Ling Xiao really used some terrifying secret method to increase his strength, how could he be so strong? Those demon generals, the weakest one was at the late stage of the 17th level of hell in the Yin Yang realm. They were all killed. If this matter was spread out, the entire sword dynasty would be shaken. No, it would definitely be shaken. This was because even the person ranked first on the bounty board would not be able to do this. In front of Devil Master Lan Mimi, he killed those devil generals, as well as over 80 of her children. Demon Lord Lan Mimi, see, these people were all killed by you. It's all your fault. Now that things have come to this, I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. Your bitch daughter was killed by me. I saved her life, but not only did she not know how to be grateful, she actually tried to kill me and steal my treasure, and even colluded with Ming City's city lord's son, Bingley. The stupid thing she did that day was no different from what you did today. You think that because you are strong and powerful, you can look down on others. If you want others to die, they will die. If you want others to live, they will live. But you are wrong. Even if I, Ling Xiao, die, I will drag your demon dragon sword court down with me. Kill. As Ling Xiao spoke, he did not stay idle. The move that he had prepared was released again. This time, it was the people of the Demon Lord residence who were killed. Stop it. Demon Lord Lan Mimi also panicked. She desperately pounced over, trying to protect the people of the Demon Lord residence. However, her movements were still one step too slow. She had only saved 4 demon kings, including the other 5 demon kings, hundreds of Demon Lord residence's protectors, and countless core disciples. They were all destroyed in an instant. The only thing she was thankful for now was that there were still some disciples of the Demon Lord residence who were carrying out missions outside. Otherwise, they would have been wiped out today. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. You want me, Ling Xiao, to die, so I will let you lose more than you gain. Kill me? Come on. Come and kill me. Chapter 3058. Lunatic. Lan Meima gritted her teeth. She couldn't understand Ling Xiao's existence. In the beginning, she guessed that Ling Xiao had hurt Lan Ruo, although it was her daughter who repaid kindness with enmity first. However, she thought that she was the demon master of the Demon Dragon Sword Court. Ling Xiao was just a personal disciple of the Wine Demon residence. She could deal with him easily. Therefore, she never thought that such a situation would occur. However, everything that was happening now was far beyond her imagination and control. This would definitely become a big event in the entire Sword Dynasty. It would definitely be spread by those who did intelligence. She and the Demon Dragon Sword Court were destined to be nailed on the pillar of shame. And this martial artist from a small country, whose real name was Ling Xiao, was the culprit of this big event. How could Lan Meima let Ling Xiao go? Thief, you're courting death. Beautiful Devil Lan roared. Her originally beautiful and enchanting face also became distorted. The Demon Dragon Sword Court's losses today were too heavy. Other than the 18th sword, all the demon generals were dead. 5 demon kings were dead. Her 100 children were basically all dead. The only thing she could save was their souls. That was because of her special martial soul. There were also the 100 protectors of the Demon Master residence, and almost all of them were core disciples. Such a price almost caused the Demon Master residence to lose half of its strength. Originally, they could still fight against the Golden Phoenix Sword Palace, but now they couldn't. And all of this happened in front of the Demon Master, Lan Meima. Courting death? You've said this more than once. Ling Xiao still maintained the posture of an expert on the surface. However, only he knew that the 3rd level of the Bloody Devil Rat's power was too heavy a burden on his body. At this moment, his strength was constantly declining, and his body's condition was extremely poor. However, he knew that he couldn't show any abnormalities. He endured the terrible pain, which felt like thousands of arrows piercing his heart, and kept himself in the Bloody Devil Rat state. He faced Demon Master Lan Meima directly. If you kill me today, I'll destroy the entire Demon Dragon Sword Court and make you a general without an army. Ling Xiao's attitude remained firm. However, Lan Mei hesitated. Currently, the Demon Dragon Sword Court still retained half of its strength. If she hadn't let Ling Xiao go, what would have happened? She didn't dare to guess. He didn't dare to imagine it. It was because she had underestimated Ling Xiao that she had made such a terrible miscalculation. He had to be extremely careful with his next choice. After doing such a thing, you still want to leave the demon dragon sword court alive? If this matter were to spread, where would I put my face? Lan Meimont asked sinisterly. I don't care if you're shameless or not. In any case, you're the same as your whore daughter. You're both ungrateful and shameless. What's the difference if you're shameless or not? Get this straight. I'm not negotiating with you, I'm warning you. You have already lost the best chance to kill me today. The moment I summoned the most terrifying power in my body, you were destined to fail. Can you kill me? Let's not talk about whether or not you can kill me. Can you pass my master's 18th sword? Let me tell you, if it weren't for my master's face, I would have destroyed the demon dragon sword court before leaving. I definitely wouldn't be here talking nonsense with you. Ling Xiao was already strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. The increase in strength brought by the bloody rat devil was huge, but the burden was also huge. Because of excessive consumption, he probably couldn't even contend against a martial artist at the first transformation of Yin Yang Realm's 16th level of hell. And this terrible situation was still continuing. His life force was constantly flowing away. But so what if he was strong on the outside but weak on the inside? As long as he could scare Demon Master Lan Mei, it was enough. If I knew this would happen, I would have killed you from the beginning. That way, the Demon Dragon Sword Court wouldn't have suffered such a huge loss today. Lan Mei had been blaming herself. The ant that he thought he could easily kill had suddenly turned into a terrifying, ferocious beast. It made her pay a heavy price. She regretted it to death. It's a pity that there's no medicine for regret in this world. Even if you regret it, what can you do? Ling Xiao mocked. It's you who killed those people. It's you who made an incomparably stupid choice. Demon Master? What a joke. Until now, he was still mocking Demon Master Lan Mei. Because he had to do this. Only by doing this would the other party not suspect that he was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Those who were still alive were all looking at Ling Xiao and Lan Mei with fear and trepidation. Any choice made by these two people could determine their life and death. A moment ago, those demon kings were still looking down on Ling Xiao and didn't take him seriously. But at this moment, they were filled with incomparable fear towards Ling Xiao. If Lan Mei hadn't blocked Ling Xiao's attack in time, the four of them would have died. And those martial artists who were far weaker than them were filled with fear towards Ling Xiao. They really hoped that Lan Mei could speak and let Ling Xiao go. Send away this terrifying demon and don't let him continue to behave atrociously. But Lan Mei was depressed in her heart. She was a top expert of the Sword Dynasty. She was the demon master of the Devil Dragon Sword Court. But now, he was forced to make a choice by such a nameless person. She really hated Ling Xiao to the point that she wanted to cut him into 1,000 pieces and kill him 1,000 times or 10,000 times to vent her hatred. But the problem was that she couldn't do that. Ling Xiao's words were heartbreaking. She might not be able to kill the current Ling Xiao in a short period of time. And Jian 18 wouldn't let her do that. So now she had become the passive side. Lan Mei, you're still a character. Say something, and I'll make my choice according to what you say. To be honest, I don't have any enmity with the Devil Dragon's Sword Court. If you didn't force me, I wouldn't be like this. I'll give you 10 breaths of time to consider. After that, I won't wait. Ling Xiao looked coldly at Lan Mei, revealing an incomparably dense killing intent. It was hard to believe that his current combat strength was not even comparable to an ordinary person. His body's condition had already reached its worst point. He was only supporting himself with one breath. Lan Mei stared at Ling Xiao. After a long time, she sighed and said, "What's your real name?" "Ling Xiao. It's the real deal," Ling Xiao said indifferently, but he didn't say where he came from. Otherwise, it would bring trouble to the 8 Immortals' kingdom. One had to know that the western region was very big, and there were tens of thousands of small countries. There were even more people named Ling Xiao. As long as he didn't say anything, even if the other party investigated to death, they wouldn't be able to find out. Unless they killed everyone named Ling Xiao. Who is the immortal bird Bai Feng to you? Lan Mei asked again. I don't know him. Ling Xiao shook his head. There was no need to use a person he didn't know to show off his power. Chapter 3059. After this battle, I'm afraid that your ranking on the bounty list will catch up to him. Although your strength is far from his, your bounty can definitely reach his level. Lan Mimi suppressed the anger in her heart and said coldly, It doesn't matter. If the people of Sword Dynasty insist on being my enemy, then I'm sorry. I, Ling Xiao, will not wait for death. I will let them know how terrifying I am. Ling Xiao said coldly. At this moment, he absolutely could not admit defeat. He had to show his strong side. Otherwise, his fierce appearance would be seen through by others. You can go. Lan Mimi thought over and over again and finally decided to let Ling Xiao leave, because she had no way to kill Ling Xiao now. In order to prevent the demon dragon sword court from being destroyed by the madman Ling Xiao, she could only do this. Hee, you think I'll leave just because you want me to? I want you to personally send me out. Ling Xiao sneered. This seemingly unreasonable request was actually something that Ling Xiao racked his brains to come up with. Even if he wanted to leave, he had to pretend to be strong. Otherwise, if Lan Mimi saw any flaws, he would be dead. Don't go too far. Lan Mimi said with an ashen face. All right, if you won't send me off, then I'll leave by myself. However, if I accidentally destroy anything along the way, don't regret it. Ling Xiao sneered. Damn it! Lan Mimi was about to go crazy. She was clearly stronger than him and could kill him, but she couldn't do anything to him. This feeling of powerlessness was driving her crazy. Don't be so angry. You're just sending me off. It's not like I'm asking you, the Demon Lord, to do anything shameful. Ling Xiao laughed. Go. Lan Mimi looked coldly at Ling Xiao and walked out of the 9-floored Demon Pagoda's 5th floor. Ling Xiao took a deep breath and endured the intense pain in his body that was about to destroy him. He ordered Xiao Jin to take him away. He could no longer fly by himself. Even walking was very difficult for him. Xiao Jin appeared and Ling Xiao sat on it. This didn't seem to be a problem. There were some people in this world who liked to ride demonic beasts. Furthermore, Xiao Jin's status was very high. Demon Master Lan Mimi did not suspect anything. Even Sword 18th and Sword Sakura were intimidated. Gen 18 walked to Ling Xiao's side and couldn't help but sigh. Little guy, you're really amazing. Even your master was shocked. With such strength, I'm afraid you can do whatever you want in the Demon Dragon Sword Court. Ling Xiao shook his head and mentally said, Master, I can't hold on much longer. I'm just holding on. We can't let beautiful Devilon see any clues. What? Sword 18 was shocked. From the surface, it was impossible to tell that Ling Xiao's body had already reached the point of falling apart. Master, don't be surprised. I have something very important to ask you. Now that things have turned out this way, will you still be safe and sound in the Devil Dragon Sword Court? Ling Xiao asked worriedly. Of course. He still asked via soul voice transmission. You don't have to worry about that. I know what I'm doing. Beautiful Devilon has suffered heavy injuries this time. She definitely won't be my enemy again unless she doesn't want the Demon Dragon Sword Court anymore. Sword 18 replied, That's good. As long as I don't implicate you, I'm relieved. After I leave this time, I don't know when we'll meet again. But a master for a day is a father for life. Master, I'll never forget your great kindness. Ling Xiao was a sentimental person. Sword 18 was willing to shed all pretense of cordiality with beautiful Devilon for him. Just this point alone was enough for him to be extremely grateful. If it weren't for Sword 18 today, beautiful Devilon might not have hesitated to attack him. Therefore, half of the credit for his life was given to him by Sword 18. I understand. After you leave the demon dragon sword court, if you have nowhere to go, take this jade pendant and find a woman called Falling Moon. She has a good relationship with me and should be able to take you in temporarily. But are you really okay? Sword 18 was starting to worry. Master, don't worry. Although my current situation is terrible, as long as I'm not killed by beautiful Devilon, I have a way to stay alive. Ling Xiao smiled. That's good. I'm relieved now. All the conversation between the two was completed through soul transmission, so beautiful Devilon didn't know. When he arrived at the exit of the Demon Dragon Sword Court, Ling Xiao suddenly frowned. There were at least 100 warriors outside the Demon Dragon Sword Court. All of them were strong. The weakest should be at the peak of the 16th level of hell in the Yin Yang realm. These guys were all staring at Ling Xiao. They were clearly bounty hunters. Are you the one who spread the news about me? Ling Xiao looked at beautiful Devilon and said coldly, Yes, but that was in the past. So even if I want to stop it, it's impossible. Beautiful Devilon sneered. Of course, there was another reason why she dared to let Ling Xiao leave. That was, she knew that Ling Xiao would be in more danger after leaving the Demon Dragon Sword Court. Countless bounty hunters would chase after him and hunt him down until he died of exhaustion. Do you think you can stop me, Ling Xiao, with just these people? Ling Xiao looked at beautiful Devilon sarcastically, then let Little Gold continue to move forward. Those who block me will die, Ling Xiao said loudly. However, his voice didn't have much effect, because these bounty hunters didn't know what Ling Xiao did on the 5th floor of the 9-story demon tower. Kill. Ling Xiao didn't waste any more words. He let Little Gold start to attack. Little Gold was now at the 18th level of hell in the Yin Yang realm. Facing these bounty hunters was like facing a group of good-for-nothings. He opened his mouth and spat out a ball of golden flame. The flame turned into the Golden Crow Divine Talisman and attacked the crowd. Of course, this wasn't the real Golden Crow Divine Talisman, but Little Gold condensed the golden light of the Netherworld. Compared to the real Golden Crow Divine Talisman, its power wasn't inferior at all. In just an instant, hundreds of bounty hunters were all burned to ashes. Not even a strand of hair could be found. Then, Ling Xiao looked back at beautiful Devilon and sneered. Beautiful Devilon, do you think I'm putting on an act? What a joke. Beautiful Devilon's face was extremely gloomy. She had indeed suspected that Ling Xiao must have paid a huge price for suddenly erupting with such powerful strength. She suspected that Ling Xiao was just bluffing and was actually strong on the outside but weak on the inside. She guessed right. Unfortunately, Little Gold's attack completely shattered her doubts. Little Gold was so powerful. If Ling Xiao was really bluffing, he should have let Little Gold come out earlier. In that case, she would be more wary. However, Ling Xiao didn't. This meant that Ling Xiao was very strong and could solve any problem. As for those bounty hunters, they were too weak. There was no need for Ling Xiao to do it himself. This reason was very reasonable. Otherwise, why didn't Ling Xiao let Sword 18 follow him? Chapter 3060. Xiao Jin, let's go. Ling Xiao sneered, called out to Xiao Jin, and then flew into the distance. Looking at Ling Xiao's departing figure, Lan Mei was so angry that her whole body trembled, but she had no choice. Sword 18 was standing behind her. If she wanted to chase after Ling Xiao, Sword 18 would not ignore it. Xiao Jin's speed was extremely fast, even faster than Ling Xiao's own speed. It was almost the speed of the Golden Light technique. Demonic beasts had such benefits. In the blink of an eye, they had already flown dozens of miles away. They were already very far away from the Devil Dragon Sword Court. At this time, Ling Xiao finally fell from Xiao Jin's body to the ground. The red light on his body had completely faded, and his cultivation had also regressed from the early stage of the 17th level of hell to the early stage of the 16th level of hell. Of course, Ling Xiao was not afraid of the regression of his cultivation because he could catch up very soon. The troublesome thing was that Ling Zhao's current physical condition was extremely bad, and because the time had been delayed for too long, life backtrack was no longer effective. He could only slowly heal his injuries. "Xiao, Jin, find a place to heal your injuries." After saying this, he grabbed a handful of healing pills and threw them into his mouth. These healing pills were definitely effective, but Ling Zhao's injuries were too serious. One pill was definitely not enough. Therefore, there were at least 10 pills in this handful. At the same time, Ling Xiao released his life martial spirit and began to heal his injuries together with the healing pills. Xiao Jin carried him on his back and flew for a distance. They found a hidden cave and hid there. At this time, Ling Xiao's condition was very bad. If someone caught up to him now, it would really be troublesome. Therefore, he could not run around. Just as Ling Xiao was healing his injuries, the big incident in the Devil Dragon Sword Court had already spread to the Heavenly Sword Hall. In the Devil Dragon Sword Court, there were supervisors sent by the Heavenly Sword Hall to monitor the loyalty of the Devil Dragon Sword Court. Such a thing has never happened in thousands of years. It was actually caused by a martial artist from a small country. Why is it this Ling Xiao again? He has repeatedly challenged the dignity of my Heavenly Sword Hall. I will not let him off easily. Increase the bounty. Full reward. Those who spoke were all reputable figures in the Heavenly Sword Hall. Of course, they wouldn't personally go after Ling Xiao, but they had to increase the bounty on Ling Xiao so that those high-level bounty hunters would have a taste of the benefits and go after Ling Xiao. The bounty is 5 million mid-grade spirit stones. He's ranked 3rd on the bounty board. This was Ling Xiao's latest bounty and ranking. Moreover, the bounty list even had a special indication of life or death. No one had ever entered the top 10, or even the top 3, of the Yinyang realm's 17th level of hell at the first revolution. Ling Xiao had completely become a celebrity in the Sword Dynasty. However, this reputation was not very good. In 3 days, the news spread throughout the Sword Dynasty. Ling Xiao, who was recuperating in the cave, did not know about this. After spending 3 days, he finally healed all his injuries. Fortunately, he was a pharmacist and his master, the Yuan Venerate, could also help him. Otherwise, he would really have been in danger this time. I suggest that you seal the energy of the 3rd level of the Bloody Rat Devil. The price of using it is too high. You were lucky this time, but you might not be so lucky next time. The Yuan Venerate reminded Ling Xiao. Master, I don't want to use it either, but you saw the situation at the time. If I didn't use it, Demon Orchid wouldn't have let me go. Ling Xiao sighed. Don't worry, Master. I don't want to experience this kind of pain again. Therefore, I will try my best not to use it. Don't worry. He knew his own situation best. He knew best how serious his injuries were this time. Therefore, even if the Yuan Venerate hadn't said anything, he wouldn't use it easily in the future. At most, he would use it until the 2nd level of the Bloody Rat Devil. Just as Ling Xiao was about to leave the cave, he suddenly frowned. Oh no, we seem to have been surrounded. The people coming this time aren't the same as those good-for-nothings outside the Demon Dragon Sword Court. His soul power was very strong, so his perception was even better than Little Gold's. He opened his Taiji eye and looked outside. There were at least 1,000 people in the crowd. Moreover, the strongest person who came this time had already reached the middle stage of the 18th level of hell in Yinyang Realm. There were also hundreds of martialists at the early stage of the 18th level of the hell. Don't tell me that all the top-ranked bounty hunters are here? The more Ling Xiao came into contact with the 9 Supremes, the more he realized that the rumors about the cultivation bases of those experts couldn't be trusted at all. For example, the cultivation bases of Demon Orchid and Sword 18. According to Ling Xiao's senses, they were at least in the life-seizing realm. However, the rumors that the 9 Supremes didn't have any life-seizers were simply **T. If Orchid and Sword 18 were so powerful, then wouldn't the experts of Heavenly Sword Hall be even stronger than these two? It seemed that the rumors really couldn't be trusted. Whoever believed them would be unlucky. Let's kill our way out, boss. I'll help you deal with those people. Little Gold was eager to try. All right, my cultivation base has regressed, and I need to fight now. These people have delivered themselves to my door. Ling Xiao's cultivation base had regressed to the early stage of the 16th level of the Hell. Of course, he wasn't a match for the martialists of the 18th and 17th levels of the Hell. However, he was fast. With Little Gold's protection, he could just pick on the weak ones. Let's do it. The two of them suddenly rushed out of the cave. The people outside included bounty hunters and martialists from Heavenly Sword Hall. However, their common goal was Ling Xiao. Of course, there was also Ling Xiao's bounty. Originally, they were planning to surround the cave and attack. However, before the plan was ready, two rays of light suddenly shot out of the cave. Ling Xiao directly entered the unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation and raised his combat power to the extreme. Little Gold followed him closely to protect him. Don't let him escape, someone shouted. Just as he was about to chase, he realized that Ling Xiao had already arrived in front of him. This person was a martialist of the 16th level of the Hell. Naturally, he wasn't afraid of the current Ling Xiao. When he saw Ling Xiao, he immediately brandished the long sword in his hand and charged forward. Ling Xiao was entangled in battle with him. The energy in his cultivation, was also constantly increasing. After all, with the experience of increasing his cultivation base, it would be easier to increase it. This was why Ling Xiao wasn't afraid of his cultivation base regressing. As long as it didn't regress too much, he didn't have to worry. While they were fighting, more martialists rushed over. However, they couldn't get past Little Gold's defense. The 9 underworld yellow spring golden light combined with Little Gold's terrifying strength. Even a martialist of the 18th level of the Hell was useless against him. Chapter 3061. After all, Xiao Jin was outnumbered. When Ling Xiao's cultivation recovered to the late stage of the 16th level of Hell of the Yin-Yang realm, Xiao Jin could no longer block the combined attacks of the martial artists at the 16th level of Hell of the Yin-Yang realm. Ling Xiao had no choice but to retreat. He couldn't let Xiao Jin take the risk for his own cultivation. However, just as they were about to escape, chaos broke out in the encirclement. In the crowd, people were constantly killed, sent flying, and injured. The martial artists who surrounded Xiao Jin had no choice but to focus on the periphery. Who is it who dares to be enemies with the Heavenly Sword Hall's punitive team? Among the people who surrounded Ling Xiao, the strongest one was a captain of the Heavenly Sword Hall's punitive team. His cultivation was at the middle stage of the 18th level of Hell of the Yin-Yang realm. When he realized that someone dared to meddle in his business, he stood out and suppressed them with his power. Ling Xiao was also curious. It just so happened that their pressure was reduced a lot, so he summoned Xiao Jin back into the beast ring to heal. He instantly entered the spectral demon dragon form, hid, and looked in the direction of the commotion. In the crowd, there were 5 special figures. They were fighting with the bounty hunters and the martial artists of the Heavenly Sword Hall. The Heavenly Sword Hall's punitive team is nothing. I'm looking for you. The martial soul that appeared behind the person who spoke was a fiery, red, undying bird. It was a little different from the undying bird that Ling Xiao transformed into. However, he could feel that this person was very powerful. His cultivation had probably reached the peak of the 18th level of Hell of the Yin-Yang realm. He was only slightly inferior to the demon master of the demon dragon sword court. The rest of the people's cultivation was basically at this level. However, there were 2 people who seemed to be stronger than the undying bird. They might be at the level of Lan Mimi and the 18th blade. Ling Xiao was a little confused. He didn't know whether these 5 people were enemies or friends. If it was an enemy, then he was too unlucky. He had actually attracted such a powerful opponent to attack him. He really had a lot of face. Undying Bird Bai Fong, it's you. The captain of the Heavenly Sword Hall's punitive team frowned. Since when did your 9 defiances dare to go against the Heavenly Sword Hall? 9 Defiance Organization? Ling Xiao had heard a little about this organization. After all, they had been in the Sword Dynasty for a long time. He had heard about it when he was in Ming City. The 9 Rebels was an organization formed by the traitors of the 9 Supreme's forces. Although this 9 deities organization did not have many members, it was very powerful. Ling Xiao didn't know any more specific information. Ling Xiao could have used this opportunity to escape. However, when he heard that these people were actually from the 9 deities organization, he wasn't going to escape. It was impossible for the 9 Defiance men to help any of the 9 Supremes. They were mortal enemies with the Sword Dynasty and the other forces of the 9 Supremes. In the entire 9 Supremes, they were almost everyone's target. It was quite similar to his current situation. What a joke! You're taking the Heavenly Sword Hall too seriously. When have we, the 9 Defiance, ever been afraid of the Heavenly Sword Hall? What a joke! The one who spoke was the Phoenix Bai Fong. Ling Xiao was too familiar with this person's name. When he first came to the Black Tortoise continent, some people had thought of him as the Phoenix Bai Fong's disciple. This kind of thing had happened more than once. So, you're really going to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Heavenly Sword Hall? The leader of the subjugation team said coldly. F***CK. So what if we shed all pretense of cordiality? If you don't get lost, all of you will die here. The Phoenix Bai Fong did not give any face to the leader of the subjugation team. As for the other 4 people, they were still massacring the people there. They were all people on the bounty list. Usually, it was these bounty hunters who chased after them. Now that they had the chance, they naturally wouldn't let these guys go. Retreat! The leader of the subjugation team was a smart man. Although there were only 5 of them, each of their cultivation base was much stronger than his. Staying behind would only be courting death. However, before he left, he suddenly thought of something. Is that Ling Xiao really your disciple? He suddenly asked the Phoenix Bai Fong. So what if he is? The immortal bird Bai Fong sneered. This time we came for him. Then it's easy. It seems that Ling Xiao will join the 9 Defies sooner or later and become a great enemy of the 9 Supremes. Let's go. He called his men and left in a hurry. When the other bounty hunters saw the situation, they knew that they couldn't get away with it, so they all fled in panic. The 5 people of the 9 Defies did not chase after them. The Phoenix Bai Fong said loudly, "Little brother, there's no need to hide. Show yourself quickly. We're here to save you." Ling Xiao knew very well that his current spectral demon dragon could not hide from these people. So after thinking about it, he showed himself. He looked at the crowd and said, "I don't know you all. Why are you all here to save me?" "You're Ling Xiao, right?" The Phoenix Bai Fong asked. "Yes." Ling Xiao nodded. "That's great. It's rumored that you're my disciple. How can I not help when my disciple is in trouble? What's more, our sister Yanyu is the sister of the 18th sword. She received a letter from the 18th sword, asking us to search for your whereabouts along the way. I didn't expect to meet you here." The Phoenix Bai Fong was a straightforward person. He didn't hide anything and said whatever he wanted to say. This kind of character instantly won Ling Xiao's favor. However, he didn't believe that the other party's purpose was these 2, or rather, not completely. Bai Fong, you can't fool him. A girl in a blue dress who looked like a pretty girl from a humble family and had an amiable appearance stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, "Let me introduce myself first. I'm Yanyu. Actually, we know that you have a bounty of 6,500,000 mid-grade spiritual stones and are 3rd on the bounty list, so we specially invited you to join the 9 Defies." Of course, the 2 reasons that Bai Fong mentioned are also there, but they are not the main reasons. "I see." Ling Xiao nodded and immediately sighed again and said, "I'm afraid you guys will be disappointed. That bounty list should have made a mistake. With my cultivation, there's no way to be mentioned in the same breath as you guys. If I'm not wrong, the 5 of you should all be experts on the bounty list, right?" You have a good eye, kid. I'm not afraid to tell you that the martial artists of the 9 defies are wanted in every force, and the bounties are very high. The 5 of us originally occupied the 2nd to 6th place on the bounty list. It's a pity that you came out of nowhere and snatched the 3rd place. Bai Fong said with a smile, as if he didn't have any dissatisfaction with Ling Xiao coming out of nowhere. Seeing this, Ling Xiao was relieved. At least these people weren't looking for trouble. However, these guys were really strong. They occupied 5 of the top 10 spots on the Sword Dynasty's bounty list. Moreover, they were the top spots. Chapter 3062. How is it, little guy? Have you thought it through? It's good to lean against a big tree. No matter how powerful you are, you will inevitably be hunted down by the Heavenly Sword Hall. But if you join the 9 Defiance organization and stay with us, the Heavenly Sword Hall and those bounty hunters won't dare to act recklessly. The Bai Fong looked at Ling Xiao and said with a smile, I can go with you, but I don't want to join the 9 Defiance organization. Is that okay? Ling Xiao thought about it and said, Why, you don't believe in the 9 Defiance organization? Yan Yu was stunned and asked, Sort of. I don't know much about the 9 Defiance organization. I'll decide whether to join or not after some time. Is that okay? Ling Xiao was very clear that since he was now ranked 3rd on the Sword Dynasty's wanted list, there would be many powerful martial artists who would come after him. Then, there would definitely be very powerful martial artists coming to find trouble with him. It would be impossible for him to not find a backer. The invitation from the 9 Defiance organization was an opportunity for him. But the principle couldn't be changed. What exactly did Jiu and I do? He had to understand it clearly. No problem. You can follow us for the time being. This will help you understand the 9 Defiance organization better. But I advise you to make a decision as soon as possible, because once you join the organization, you will get a lot of benefits. Bai Fong thought about it and said, Thank you for your understanding, Senior. Don't call me Senior. Just call me Brother Bai Fong. Bai Fong hurriedly waved his hand and said, Come, let me introduce you. You already know Yan Yu. Although she's young, she's ranked 2nd on the wanted list. She's stronger than me and is already a first life-sizer. Long Xiang, a beast martial artist. His martial soul is the Archean dragon elephant. He's very powerful and ranked 3rd on the wanted list. He's been pushed to 4th by you, but he's still higher than me. His cultivation is the same as mine, at the peak of the 18th level of hell. Ling Xiao cupped his hands at Long Xiang. This person was tall and strong. He was 4 meters tall without transforming. His body was very strong, and he could give his opponent a strong sense of oppression just by standing there. By the way, Long Xiang's identity is a bit special. This guy is a core disciple of a big force, but he was wronged like you and escaped. It's just that I've been called a rebel. I feel so wronged. Hearing this, Ling Xiao immediately had a good impression of Long Xiang. It was the kind of good impression that people of the same kind appreciated each other. Ba Dao, ranked 5th on the bounty board. Now he is ranked 6th. His cultivation is the same as mine. You should know from his name that his blade techniques are very powerful. Ling Xiao looked at Ba Dao. He was also a very sturdy fellow. Although he wasn't as tall as Long Xiang, every muscle on his body seemed to contain explosive energy. However, Ba Dao was missing an arm, and it was his right arm. It seemed like he was a person with a story. The last one is Chong Qingqing, who used to be ranked 6th on the bounty list, but is now ranked 7th. Chong Qingqing is best at archery. She can shoot wherever she wants from thousands of meters away. Moreover, her power is extremely terrifying. Ling Xiao looked at the last person. She was a 17 or 18-year-old girl. She was already at the late stage of the 18th level of hell. However, the feeling it gave people was that Chong Qingqing's attack power was probably above the others. If the bow and arrow were used well, it would be a terrifying killing weapon. However, Chong Qingqing seemed to be a little introverted. The others all greeted Ling Xiao. Only this little girl lowered her head like a mimosa which made people feel some pity for her. Actually, other than the 5 of us, there are 2 other people in the Sword Dynasty from the Sky Dragon continent. One is called Long Chin, and the other is called Cold Plum. They are in a hurry to cultivate, so they haven't come out yet. Yan Yu smiled and said, Long Chin, Cold Plum. Ling Xiao was so excited that he almost jumped up. He had been in the Black Tortoise continent for a long time. In fact, he had heard that his good brother Long Chin and his most loyal guard Cold Plum had reincarnated here. However, there had been no news of them before. He didn't expect to hear news of them this time. Of course, the excitement only came from the heart. Ling Xiao didn't show it. He wasn't familiar with these people and couldn't reveal his secret completely. Moreover, there was a possibility that they had the same name. It wasn't good to be happy too early. Since you've decided to follow us, then let's go back together. Back to our old nest, Miwu Valley. Although Bai Fong wasn't the strongest, it seemed to be the boss of these 5 people. These 5 people obviously didn't come together because of their strength. There was a strong brotherhood between them. Although they weren't blood-related, they might be closer than blood-related. In order to thank you for your trust in me, I'd better show my true face. Ling Xiao felt that if he wanted to gain the trust of others, he had to at least take some risks. He could hide things that he didn't want to expose, but at least he couldn't hide his true face. That would be too insincere. Damn, you're good. This transformation technique is a special, secret technique. Even if ordinary people get it, they can't learn it. You can use it so skillfully. Admirable, really admirable. Bai Fong said, excitedly, Brother Bai Fong, you flatter me. Ling Xiao smiled. Then I'll show you. Long Xiang smiled and gently touched the beast ring on his hand. Suddenly, a giant beast flew out of the ring. This giant beast had the appearance of a giant elephant, but it had a pair of huge wings and could easily fly into the sky. This is called the flying giant elephant. It's a top mount in our Longxiang tribe. Everyone come on up. Longxiang called out. Ling Xiao was really impressed. This flying giant elephant's strength was basically equivalent to a warrior at the early stage of level 18 of Hell in Yinyang Realm. Good heavens, it was really extravagant to use this as a mount. He flew up and jumped on the back of the flying giant elephant. He felt a strange energy wrap around his body. Even though the flying giant elephant exploded with the speed of sound, he still didn't feel any wind. This was really comfortable. Ling Xiao still didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing to meet these guys with strong personalities. But one thing was for sure. He had been in the Black Tortoise continent for so long. Besides Sword 18, Lin Gang, and Jian Luoying, only these people could make him feel good. He believed that he had made the right choice. By following these people, not only could he meet his good brothers and guards, but he could also get more help. After all, Lan Yu was an expert at the same level as Lan Mei. With such an expert by his side, Ling Xiao didn't have to worry about being surrounded by bounty hunters. The only thing he needed to do now was to improve his cultivation as soon as possible. Chapter 3063. Miwu Valley was located in the dense forest of the Sword Dynasty. This place was filled with a terrifying fog all year round, hence the name. Ordinary people thought that this was a natural phenomenon, but after Ling Xiao arrived, he discovered that this fog was actually a powerful formation, Miwu Phantom Formation. As long as there was this formation, outsiders would get lost and go around in circles when they entered without knowing the method. Anyway, it was impossible to find the 9 Defiance stronghold in the Miwu Valley. However, Ling Xiao was not too conspicuous. He still walked out of the heavy fog under Bai Fong's lead and came to the 9 Defiance stronghold. This place was really not small. From the outside, it simply looked like a huge town. There are actually more than a few of you living in the Miwu Valley? Ling Xiao asked curiously. Of course. Although the outside world says that the 9 Defiants are rebels, in fact, the purpose of establishing the 9 Defiants is to protect pitiful people who have been wronged and framed like us. Many of the people living in this Miwu town are such people and their relatives. The environment here is beautiful and very safe. Our people will buy the materials needed from outside, and some of them are produced here. Look at the medicinal field over there. It's planted by the people of the Miwu town. Speaking of this, Yan Yu is very proud. As a martial artist, to be able to protect people like her was a kind of happiness to Yan Yu. And Ling Xiao might just be one of these people they saved. After entering the town, the enthusiastic townspeople, greeted by Fong and the others one after another. It could be seen that these 5 people had a very high reputation here. Some things could be faked, but the smiles of those Miwu town's townspeople, as well as their heartfelt excitement, could not be faked. Ling Xiao was more and more convinced that the 9 Defiants might be a good organization. At the very least, Bai Fong and the others were really good. It feels good, right? Every time we come back and see that these people can live peacefully and happily, we are content with our hard work. Bai Fong said with a smile, "Some people practice martial arts for longevity. Some people practice martial arts for strength. And we practice martial arts to be able to protect people like us. We have all had the experience of being wronged and persecuted, and we were all saved by the 9 Defiants. Therefore, we must carry on this sense of responsibility." Ling Xiao was extremely excited when he heard this. Aside from wanting to become stronger, his ultimate goal in practicing martial arts was to unify the profound world and restore the glory of the human race. He also has a sense of responsibility, and that is to protect everyone in the heavenly empire. For the sake of this sense of responsibility, he had to become stronger. He had to constantly become stronger. "Boss! Master!" Suddenly, 2 figures dashed out from the crowd. It was Long Chen and Cold Plum. The current strength of these 2 people was not weak at all. Long Chen was at the middle stage of the 18 levels of hell, while Cold Plum was at the early stage of the 18 levels of hell. They reincarnated later than Ling Xiao, but fortunately they were born in the Sword Dynasty, so they received much more resources than Ling Xiao. In addition, their aptitude was not much worse than Ling Xiao's, so it was conceivable that their cultivation had reached such a level. "The 2 of you are actually stronger than me." Ling Xiao sighed. "Boss, don't make fun of us. I know that you reincarnated directly to that remote town and used 2 heaven-defying moves that caused your cultivation to regress. It's already very impressive that you can still maintain this cultivation. I reckon that you should surpass us soon." Long Chen laughed. He was not flattering him. With the same resources, Ling Xiao's cultivation would definitely improve faster than theirs. It was only a matter of time before he surpassed them. Master is always the strongest. Cold Plum knew Ling Xiao's secret, and she always maintained the most worshipful attitude towards Ling Xiao. "You know each other?" Bai Fong asked curiously. "Yes, we are all martial artists from the Heavenly Dragon Continent." Ling Xiao said simply. Some secrets could not be made public for the time being, although he felt that Bai Fong and the others were not bad. However, distance tests a horse's strength, and time reveals a person's heart. No one could predict what would happen in the future, so it was better to be careful. "All right, in that case, that's even better. Long Chin, Cold Plum, we happen to have something to do, so you guys can take Ling Xiao around," Bai Fong said with a smile. "No problem." Long Chin smiled. "All right, Ling Xiao, you go around first and familiarize yourself with the situation here. If you need any help, just let Long Chen or Cold Plum come to us," Bai Fong said again. "Thank you, Brother Bai Fong. What are you thanking me for? You're being too polite again. All right, we'll get going first." Bai Fong waved and left with Yan Yu and the others. It could be seen that they had been very busy. They were busy saving all the people who had been wronged and framed, like Ling Xiao. "Let's go, boss," Long Chin said with a smile. "Wait a minute, I'll introduce you two to a new friend, who is also my sworn brother." As he spoke, Ling Xiao let Xiao Jin fly out. At this moment, Xiao Jin's injuries had already healed. When he saw Long Chen, he even had some fighting spirit. "Ling Xiao is my boss. He's mine." The two of them actually started to argue over such a trivial matter. You guys might as well split me into two. Who said that a boss is only one person's boss? I'm also the Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Empire. If everyone fights like you guys, then wouldn't our Heavenly Empire be in chaos every day and night? Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled bitterly. Boss, what's this guy's name? He looks so strong. Long Chen looked at Xiao Jin excitedly and asked Ling Xiao. His original name is Ling Yan, and he's my good brother. However, due to a special situation, his physical body was destroyed. After I helped him revive, he became like this. Now he's called Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin, this is Long Chen, a genuine member of the dragon race. He doesn't have the dragon race's bloodline. He's a real golden dragon. And that one is Cold Plum, one of my best friends. Ling Xiao had never treated Cold Plum as a maid. Cold Plum was his friend, his best friend. Originally, Ling Xiao thought that Xiao Jin and Long Chen would be difficult to get along with, but he soon knew that he was wrong. Cold Plum brought them to her residence. Long Chen and Xiao Jin had a big battle, and then they actually appreciated each other and became friends. On one side was the Golden Dragon. On the other side was the ancient Golden Crow. Their relationship was extremely good. Next, Cold Plum ordered a table of dishes. As they ate, they talked about their experiences during this period of time. Long Chen and Cold Plum's experience was actually relatively simple. They entered the Heavenly Sword Hall after reincarnating to the Sword Dynasty. However, because their talent was too strong, they were instead envied and framed. In the end, it was 9 Defiance people who saved them and brought them here to cultivate. Chapter 3064. When Ling Xiao talked about his experience, Long Chen and Cold Plum suddenly felt excited. Ling Xiao's experience was too legendary, especially when they heard that Ling Xiao had turned into the Black Demon and killed an expert from the Palace of Eternal Life. He had even chased the expert into the Forbidden Land of Death. Long Chen felt goosebumps all over his body. He was so excited that he felt goosebumps all over his body. The Black Demon has always been a legend in the 9 Supremes. Although he only appeared for a short time, he caused the 9 Supremes to suffer heavy losses. I didn't expect that it was actually you, boss. Long Chen was extremely emotional and excited. Master, if that's the case, your next step should be to go to the demonic dragon sword court to obtain the power of the Black Tortoise? Cold Plum's question was more targeted. She hoped that she could help Ling Xiao. That's right. I risked my life to get the Black Tortoise seal so that I could obtain the power of the Black Tortoise. There are still a few days before the Black Tortoise appears. I can take advantage of this time to recover my previous cultivation base. Ling Xiao nodded. Boss, if you want to recover your strength, maybe you can help Brother Bai Fong and the others with their missions. Long Chen thought for a moment and said, the missions they carry out are very dangerous, but at the same time it's more suitable for stimulating the potential in your body. That's a good idea. I'll go find Bai Fong now. Ling Xiao said. Don't do that, boss. Aren't you going to bring us along? We've finally reunited. I don't want to be separated from you again. Long Chen smiled bitterly. Me too. Cold Plum looked at Ling Xiao with a very serious expression. If you guys are here, how can I feel danger? Without danger, how can I stimulate my potential? This time, not only will I not bring you guys, but I won't bring Xiao Jin either. Only in the midst of life and death can I improve my strength better. Ling Xiao shook his head and said. Just as the 3 of them were about to speak, Ling Xiao said coldly, since you guys treat me as your boss and master, you should listen to me. After saying that, he turned and left. He could find where Bai Fong was at a glance. The ability of the Tai Chi Eye was not an exaggeration. You want to carry out a mission? The immortal bird Bai Fong looked at Ling Xiao curiously and said, You were just saved by us. Aren't you afraid of danger? Big brother Bai Fong, to tell you the truth, I have to experience danger and battle in order to improve my strength. Ling Xiao said, I see. It just so happens that Chong Ching has a mission that is relatively easy. You can go with her. Bai Fong thought for a while and said, but I know your temper. I need you to listen to Chong Ching's arrangements when you're on a mission. Don't worry. As long as there is a battle, I will listen to her. Ling Xiao nodded. Very good. I'll get Chong Ching to come over. The Bai Fong sent someone to find Chong Ching. Not long after, Chong Ching arrived. This time your mission is to head to Skyju City and buy a slave there. That person is our Chinese intelligence agent. He was accidentally captured, but his identity was not exposed. The Bai Fong said, Skyju City is a good place. There are many good things in the auction house. Other than our intelligence agent, if you find anything good, you can bid for it. The funds will be on Chinese account. Of course, if you want to bid for it yourself, then you can only spend your own money. Blood brothers should settle accounts clearly. Skyju City, an ancient city with tens of thousands of years of history in the Sword Dynasty. It was not far from the Mist Valley. The Bai Fong chose to let Ling Xiao carry out the mission here because he was worried that after the mission failed, Ling Xiao would have no way out. If they were closer, they would be able to rescue him in time. Skyju City had a special characteristic, which was the slave trade. There were several large slave auction houses here. There were also many groups that specialized in kidnapping and trafficking. Therefore, if a normal martial artist was not strong enough or did not have a strong martial artist accompanying them, they would not come here easily. The key was that it was too dangerous. Outside Skyju City, a very beautiful giant bird was heading towards the city. It brought a gust of wind along the way. The giant bird was called Fairy Bird and was Chong Ching's mount. Although this fairy bird was not as strong as the flying elephant, it was equivalent to a martial artist at the peak of the 17th level of hell. 9NI organization dared to go against the 9 Supremes. They were indeed capable. Ling Xiao, remember, don't cause commotion in Skyju City when you go. There are many martial artists there who are very strong. When they were about to reach Skyju City, Chong Ching reminded him. In her impression, Ling Xiao was not someone easy to deal with. She did not know when he would cause trouble. Got it. Ling Xiao nodded. Although Chong Ching had misunderstood him, he did not care and did not explain. There was no need for that. Skyju City was already in front. Suddenly, a giant beast flew past and arrived in front of Skyju City's gate. A few people jumped down from the giant beast. Then, they kept the giant beast into the beast ring. The people guarding the city gate did not stop them. They merely took a glance at them and allowed them to enter. Those few people were very strong, at least on the surface. Each of them had reached the early stage of the 18th level of hell. Those guards probably did not dare to stop them. As he was thinking, the fairy bird also landed. Let's go too. Chong Ching kept the fairy bird and brought Ling Xiao to Skyju City. However, their treatment was obviously different from the previous 3 people. They were directly stopped outside the city gate. It was not the guards who stopped them. Instead, it was 3 martial artists dressed up as martial artists. However, the strength of each and every one of them was truly impressive. What's the matter? Chong Ching frowned and asked. Usually, when she was with Bai Fong and others, Chong Ching was a very shy girl. However, when she was on her own, her performance was still very good. She definitely did not have that kind of shy look. To enter Skyju City, each person has to pay 10,000 mid-grade spiritual stones. The 2 of you are exactly 20,000. One of them said with an evil smile. These words made Ling Xiao frown. However, thinking of Chong Ching and Bai Fong's reminder, he did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Chong Ching. Chong Ching said coldly, Skyju City actually allowed bandits to run rampant at the city gate. I think this Sword Dynasty is really rotten to the core. I have spiritual stones, but why should I give them to you? He did not expect this little girl to have such a temper. Why? Because you are not as strong as us. If you don't pay the spiritual stones, then die. That person said, coldly, "Do you dare to casually kill people outside Sky Ju City's gate?" Chang Ching questioned. "Idiot, let me tell you the truth. Even if we kill you, no one will care. Otherwise, why do you think we dare to make a move here?" The three people revealed a mocking smile on their faces, as if mocking Chang Ching's naivety. "Now, each of you has to pay 20,000 mid-grade spiritual stones. The two of you are 40,000. Chapter 3065. You don't want to pay? Then go to hell." One of the three men, who only had one eye, said coldly. His murderous aura was suddenly released, making people feel a terrifying chill. "My brother has a bad temper, but he's telling the truth." Another man laughed. "Think about it. Only 40,000 mid-grade spirit stones can save both of your lives. No matter how you look at it, this is a better deal, right?" Although that man was laughing, it was a mocking smile. "It's indeed a good deal. Hand it over." Ling Xiao couldn't hold it in anymore. According to his character, he would have attacked long ago and wouldn't waste time talking nonsense with these guys. He just didn't attack because of Chang Ching's reminder. However, he said something that completely aroused the killing intent of the three men. "You're courting death." The three of them finally stopped talking nonsense and pounced on Ling Xiao at the same time. "Sister Chang, don't attack." Ling Xiao stood in front of Chang Ching excitedly and released an explosive aura. He instantly entered the unbounded heavenly rat beast soul transformation. Because the three of them were martial artists at the early stage of the 17th level of hell in Yin Yang realm, they weren't easy to deal with. Boom! Ling Xiao blocked the attacks of the three men alone. The terrifying sonic boom attracted the attention of many passers-by and the guards. That brat is only at the late stage of the 16th level of hell in Yin Yang realm. How dare he challenge martial artists at the 17th level of hell? He must be tired of living. The guards looked at Ling Xiao mockingly and sneered disdainfully. They saw such a scene a few times a month. Those young martial artists who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth would usually end up in a tragic death. Imperial Celestial Dragon Constitution. Bloody Devil, Rat Level 1. Bloodthirsty Plague. Ling Xiao, who had reached the early stage of the 17th level of hell in Yin Yang realm, naturally knew how powerful martial artists at this level were. Because of this, he dared to fight 1 against 3. As his strength continued to rise, the three opponents were horrified to find that the terrifying germs were constantly corroding their bodies. They had no choice but to divert a large amount of their inner strength to deal with the bloodthirsty plague. As the saying went, the other went up. Although Ling Xiao had suffered some internal injuries, it was nothing serious. Instead, under the bombardment of the three great experts, the potential in his body was constantly unleashed. His cultivation sea was finally filled. Ling Xiao's cultivation had recovered by another level. He had reached the peak of the first revolution, Yin Yang realm's 16th level of hell. In his peak state, he faced these three weak warriors from the 17th level of hell. Ling Xiao's disadvantage had gradually turned into an advantage. Heavenly flame, undying bird's flame. Black flames burned on his body. In an instant, the three of them were devoured. Back when he went to the Demon Dragon Sword Court and killed the 13 demon generals, he relied on the sudden attack of the strange flame. If others managed to avoid the deviant flame, they wouldn't die. But if he couldn't avoid it, he would definitely die. At the very least, no one below the first reincarnation divine stage could resist the terrifying power of the heavenly flame. Ling Xiao still had his immortal fire. If the immortal fire wasn't enough, Ling Xiao still had the divine fire. These were all divine skills that he relied on to save his life. "Let's go, Sister Chang." Ling Xiao stopped and said to Chang Ching with a smile. He didn't think there was anything wrong with what he had done. If he didn't dare take action when others wanted his life, he wouldn't be able to do so. Chang Ching didn't blame him either. She only nodded, and the two of them stepped into Sky Absolute City. What a terrifying, strange flame. What powerful defense! A guard looked in astonishment at the 3 people that had been burned to ashes. He could not help but sigh. In fact, the farce outside the city gates had nothing to do with them. It was a collaboration between the upper echelons of Sky Absolute City and the bandits. They were also very vexed. If anyone could vanquish the bandits, they would be more than happy to do so. Hey, that strange flame and that defense. Could it be Fire Cloud Palace's second-ranked Little Fire God? I heard that Little Fire God will be coming to Sky Absolute City to snatch the Fire Supreme Sword Art. Are you talking about the Fire Supreme catalog? It said that the 9 catalogs can ultimately form a 9 Supremes catalog. From it, one can comprehend the 9 Supremes battle arts. These 9 Supremes battle arts can be comprehended into different martial arts according to one's specialty, regardless of what weapon or martial technique one is adept in. For example, if one uses a sword, it would be the 9 Supremes sword art. If one uses a saber, it would be the 9 Supremes saber art. In short, the ultimate technique comprehended would be a bona fide king-level ultimate technique. It doesn't exist in the 9 Supremes territory at present. That's right, it's the 9 Supremes catalog. Ling Xiao didn't pay much attention to the guard's words, but when he heard about the Fire Supreme catalog, Ling Xiao instantly perked up. He never expected to have such an unexpected gain. He had already obtained the Demon's Supreme catalog, but it didn't seem likely that he could study it alone. He had to obtain all 9 catalogs before he could combine them into a perfect artifact and king-level martial art. He had to get it. No matter what Chong Qingqing said to Ling Xiao, this catalog was something that he absolutely could not miss. Ling Xiao, listen up. The Fire Supreme catalog is a supreme treasure that all the 9 Supremes factions are vying for. This time, people from Fire Cloud Palace and Manor of Spirits will probably appear. Even the experts in Sky Absolute City won't be spared. Although the news isn't conclusive, Heavenly Sword Hall will definitely send people over. Be careful. Don't be careless. Chong Qingqing also heard the guard's words and reminded him. Ling Xiao knew that there were 2 major sects near Sky Absolute City. One was Fire Cloud Palace, and the other was Manor of Spirits. Although they weren't as powerful as the Demon Dragon Sword Court and Golden Phoenix Sword Palace, they were still considered powerhouses. It was definitely not an easy task to vie for the Fire Supreme catalog with them, especially among the younger generation. Fire Cloud Palace had produced Little Fire God, who was very famous in this generation. Manor of Spirits had also produced young Master Spectre. Although these 2 people couldn't compare to Empress Lan and Mei Qin, they were definitely much stronger than Bloodrobes, Heartless, and Lin Chuang. Rumor had it that Little Fire God was best at playing with fire and often used a terrifying demonic fire. However, his trump card was the terrifying deviant fire. His enemies would often all turn into ashes without leaving a single piece of armor behind. This was also the reason why the guards mistakenly believed that Ling Xiao was Little Fire God. Little Fire God wasn't a bounty hunter, but he liked to hunt warriors on the bounty list. Basically, no one had ever seen what his deviant fire looked like. This was because his enemies had all died under his demonic fire. Little Fire God's cultivation level had already reached the middle stages of the 17th level of Hell in Yin Yang Realm. Of course, such a cultivation level might not be considered impressive in the eyes of people like Chong Qingqing. However, there was no doubt that he was definitely one of the best among the younger generation. This was especially so since he could challenge those of a higher level. Chapter 3066. Now Little Fire God was already a martial artist at the middle stage of the 17th level of Hell. Most likely within the first transformation Yin Yang Realm and the 17th level of Hell, there should be no one who was his match. Of course, this was the judgment of outsiders, and not Little Fire God's own boasting. He was called Little Fire God, and even his original name was almost forgotten by people. It was because his use of flames was amazing. Young Master Yuling's information was not very detailed, but he should not be much worse than Little Fire God. Anyway, he was not someone to be trifled with. After entering Tianju City, Ling Xiao originally planned to change his appearance, but Chang Qingqing told him that there was no need. Tianju City was a very strange and special place. No matter what crime you committed, you could walk the streets in broad daylight here. The people in the city would not be afraid of you, and instead, they would do business with you. Therefore, in Tianju City, there were actually many people on the bounty list. There were also many people who committed serious crimes who came here to hide. No one understood what Heavenly Sword Hall was thinking. But it was true that for so long there was basically no situation where a martial artist on the bounty list was attacked by a martial artist from Heavenly Sword Hall in Tianju City. It was possible for a bounty hunter. After all, this was a lawless place in the true sense. But everyone also understood. In Tianju City, there were some people who could not be offended, and these people were people from the Tianju Wang residence. Tianju Wang, a person who had helped the founder of Sword Dynasty to conquer the world in the past and made great contributions. Although he died later on, he was posthumously given the title of Tianju Wang. His descendants were also given the title of nobles, and were as honorable as the royal family. If someone beat up someone from Tianju Wang residence in Tianju City, then Heavenly Sword Hall would send a top expert to suppress them. At that time, no one would be able to escape. Chang Qingqing had already told Ling Xiao about this matter 3 or 4 times. Ling Xiao felt that his ears were about to grow calluses. He also remembered clearly that he was not willing to provoke that kind of trouble. If he really provoked the highest battle strength of Heavenly Sword Hall, then wouldn't he be unable to escape? Ling Xiao and Chang Qingqing began to look for a target. The person they were bidding for this time was a woman called Phantom. However, he wasn't sure which auction house it would be held at, so he had to find someone first. Fortunately, there were only a total of 10 auction houses in the Heaven Absolute City. Therefore, it wasn't that difficult to find one. They stopped in front of an auction house called Rare Goods House. After asking around, he found out that Phantom was in this auction house. However, there was still 2 hours before the auction began. Chang Qingqing was worried that she would miss the time, so she found a restaurant opposite the Rare Goods building and stayed there. Even after she found him, her expression was still one of worry. Ling Xiao knew what she was worried about. Before Phantom was rescued, she would not be completely at ease. In order to ease the tension, Chang Qingqing ordered a table of dishes downstairs and ate with Ling Xiao. She rarely spoke. As she ate, she looked at the Rare Goods building across the street. No one knew what she was thinking. Ling Xiao felt bored and simply buried his head in the food. Suddenly, a burning sensation came from outside the restaurant. Not only Ling Xiao, but almost everyone's attention was attracted. What a strong fighting spirit! What a frightening fire! What everyone saw was a young man in a fiery red battle robe. Not only was he dressed in red, but even his hair was dyed crimson. His entire body was emitting a strong fighting spirit. It was as if he was ready to fight at any time. Pretentious. Ling Xiao glanced at him and lost interest. A true expert wouldn't be so ostentatious. It was just a meal in a restaurant, but he was so ostentatious. It was as if he was afraid that others didn't know how powerful he was. That should be Little Fire God, Chang Qingqing said indifferently. It can't be wrong. Ling Xiao nodded and came to the same conclusion. The young man entered the restaurant and scanned the crowd in the hall. He was very proud of those surprised or admiring gazes. Then he invited a very beautiful girl into the restaurant. Little Fire God, you're really impressive. Look at them. All of them are scared stiff. The girl laughed excitedly. It turned out that the reason why Little Fire God released such a strong fighting spirit was just to please this girl. That was really something. Good baby, now you believe me. In this sky city, as long as I, Little Fire God, am here, no one dares to bully you. Little Fire God said, and then walked to a table. There were already people sitting at the table. Get lost. His voice was like thunder. The people at the table also seemed to be people of status. Naturally, they wouldn't leave. They wanted to seek justice from Little Fire God. Little Fire God, although you're famous, we're not to be trifled with. Moreover, we found this table first. Why should we give it to you? Among the 4 people at the table, 3 of them were martial artists at the peak of the 16th level of hell. One of them was at the early stage of the 17th level of hell. If they joined forces, their strength would be really impressive. Therefore, while others were afraid of Little Fire God, the 4 of them were not. But they were really wrong. Little Fire God was very domineering. His strength was also very powerful. Suddenly, 4 balls of demonic fire emerged from his body. They instantly enveloped the 4 people. The 4 of them had clearly sensed it and had clearly made a move to dodge, but it was all meaningless. The demonic fire still wrapped around them and burned them to ashes. Waiter, clean up. Don't spoil my mood. Little Fire God killed 4 people, and 4 people he didn't know, but he didn't even blink. Yes, yes, yes. The waiter hurriedly cleaned the table, chairs, and the floor. Then he served Little Fire God wine and dishes. It seemed that he didn't intend to take money. The girl who was accompanying Little Fire God was so happy that she could barely contain her happiness. Her little face was flushed, and she looked at Little Fire God with eyes full of admiration and admiration. Sure enough, most girls at this age liked strong and domineering people. Ling Xiao, what do you think of him? Chong Ching asked casually as she ate. They were quite far from Little Fire God's seat, and their voices were not loud, so he probably couldn't hear them. He's not weak. Ling Xiao answered casually. How does he compare to you? Chong Ching asked again. His cultivation level is higher than mine. Ling Xiao still answered casually, but if it's a real battle, I'm not afraid of him. In fact, he was already being very polite when he said that, but that was only what he felt. What he didn't know was that Little Fire God had many die-hard fans in Sky Absolute City. Just as he said that, a girl stood up from a seat beside him. The girl's cultivation level wasn't much, but her temper wasn't small. She pointed at Ling Xiao's nose and cursed. Where did this egomaniac come from? How dare you compare yourself to my Adonis? My Adonis is a genius warrior, second only to Empress Lan and Mei Chen. He is ranked second among the Fire Cloud Palace disciples. Chapter 3067. The young girl had obviously regarded Little Fire God as her dream man. Naturally, she could not stand Ling Xiao's disrespect towards Little Fire God. However, in Ling Xiao's eyes, she was just a die-hard fan. He looked at the young girl with disdain and said, "To be honest, I have never heard of Little Fire God, but I do have some impression of Empress Lan Meichen." This was not false. Before Ling Xiao came to Tianjua City, he had never heard of Little Fire God. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying force suddenly came from Little Fire God and blasted the table where Ling Xiao and Chong Ching were eating. The table shattered and the food scattered all over the floor. However, if one were to pay closer attention, they would realize that although the food splashed everywhere, it did not stain Ling Xiao or Chong Ching's clothes. Ling Xiao's brows furrowed as he turned to look at Little Fire God. Little Fire God was fawning over the woman opposite him and naturally could not embarrass himself. Someone actually dared to say that they had never heard of his name. Of course, he had to teach that person a lesson. Kid, watch your words next time. Otherwise, the next one to shatter will not be the table, but you. Little Fire God did not even look at Ling Xiao and Chong Ching. His tone could not hide the arrogance and haughtiness. So strong. Little Fire God is indeed Little Fire God. The moment he unleashed his power, I did not even feel his inner strength circulating. This speed is too fast. During the meal, some people could not help but praise. Hearing such praise, Little Fire God's expression became even more smug. The young girl sitting next to him was even more mesmerized by his domineering behavior. In the restaurant, there were many female warriors who became infatuated in an instant. They looked at Little Fire God as if they were suddenly in love. So domineering, so arrogant. As a woman, she should marry a man like that. What are you looking at? Don't you know that my Prince Charming is being merciful? Look again, and I will gouge your eyes out." Suddenly, the young girl at the next table saw Ling Zhao's cold gaze and could not help but clamor. She felt that Ling Zhao's actions were extremely disrespectful to her idol, little fire god. Ling Zhao, a little impatience, spoils great plans. Don't forget what we're here for. Chang Qingqing knew what Ling Zhao wanted to do. Once Ling Zhao made his move, the so-called little fire god might not be a match for him. However, before Phantom was rescued, Chang Qingqing did not want to cause any more trouble. "All right, I'll give you face, but only before we save Phantom. You may be able to take this kind of attitude, but I can't." Ling Zhao didn't even admit defeat in front of Devil Master Lan Mei, so how could he be afraid of a little fire god? However, he was a man of his word. Since he had agreed to help save Phantom, he would not act rashly. "Buddy, change the table and the dishes. We'll still charge you," Chang Qingqing said to the waiter. "Hee, two cowards, ba." Little fire god spat on the ground and then stopped caring about Ling Zhao and Chang Qingqing. In his opinion, they were just two insignificant good-for-nothings. There was no need to pay attention to them at all. However, he didn't know that his actions today had angered Ling Zhao, and he was afraid that he would be in trouble soon. Seeing that little fire god was no longer paying attention to Ling Zhao, the girl at the next table said smugly, "My idol is so magnanimous that he can tolerate a good-for-nothing like you. If it were me, I would have done it long ago." Humph. After saying that, she also sat down. Although she was angry, since little fire god didn't say anything, she didn't want to go against her idol's wishes. What an idiot. It's a waste of time for others to even look at you. But you care so much about others. Ling Zhao looked down on this girl. A pitiful person must have something detestable. Little fire god drank for a while and then left with his female companion. Their destination was rare goods. It was also the place Ling Zhao and Chang Qingqing wanted to go. Could it be that the Fire Supreme catalog is in rare goods? Ling Zhao thought to himself. He looked at Chang Qingqing and said, "Let's go, Miss Chang. The auction is about to start." "Okay." Chang Qingqing was almost done eating. She nodded and got up to go out with Ling Zhao. However, at this moment, the girl who was very disrespectful to Ling Zhao suddenly blocked their way. There were 3 other people with the girl. It seemed that their strength was not ordinary. However, compared to the 3 people who asked for spirit stones at the city gate, they were much weaker. Among the 4 people, the girl was the strongest. She was only at the peak of the 16th level of hell of the yin-yang state. The other 3 people were only at the late stage of the 16th level of hell of the yin-yang state. No one knew who gave them the courage to find trouble with Ling Zhao. "What are you doing?" Ling Zhao asked coldly. "Don't you know what I'm doing? How dare you provoke my idol? Although my idol won't argue with you, it doesn't mean that I won't argue with you." The girl pulled out her weapon and looked coldly at Ling Zhao. "Get lost!" Ling Zhao suddenly shouted coldly. Then, a terrifying sword essence was suddenly released. It turned into a sword and penetrated the girl's body. It suppressed the girl's soul. Although the sword essence could not kill people directly, it could make people feel extreme fear and lose the will to fight. It was a domineering, destructive, and murderous sword essence. The girl fell to the ground. The people who came with her also knelt on the ground. They were extremely terrified. "Do you really think I'm afraid of you? I didn't kill you because I think you're ignorant. If there's a next time, you'll die," Ling Zhao said ruthlessly, and left the restaurant with Chang Qingqing. As soon as they left, the people in the restaurant started discussing. The sword essence that exploded from that person just now was really terrifying. "I'm afraid he's after the Fire Supreme catalog." "Yeah, the girl next to him seems even more terrifying. And the more I look at her, the more I feel like she's Chang Qingqing, who's ranked 7th on the bounty list. It can't be. If it's really Chang Qingqing, she wouldn't put little fire god in her eyes at all. She probably just looks like him." but they're really strong. Although they're not as strong as Little Fire God, they should be strong contenders for the Fire Supreme catalog this time. Yeah, there's a show to watch. Of course. Ling Xiao wouldn't hear these people's discussions. He and Chong Ching left the restaurant and went straight to the rare goods house. They didn't know what good things were being auctioned in the rare goods house today, but there was a long line outside the door. Fortunately, Ling Xiao and Chong Ching came early, so they were ranked in the 10th position. It would be their turn soon. Behind them, people came one after another, forming a line that was more than 10,000 meters long. It was quite an exaggerated scene. Just as they were waiting, Ling Xiao noticed that someone was cutting the line. They walked directly from the back to the front, not waiting in line at all. When this group of people arrived beside Ling Xiao, it happened to be Ling Xiao's turn. Chapter 3068. Line up. Ling Xiao didn't care who the person who cut the queue was, nor did he care why so many people didn't pay attention to him. Anyway, he couldn't cut the queue in front of him. That kid is crazy. He even dares to block young Master Spectre. Doesn't he know how bad-tempered young Master Spectre is? There were exclamations from the crowd. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao and young Master Spectre. Young Master Spectre's cultivation was higher than Little Fire God's. He had already reached the late stage of the 17th level of Hell in Yin Yang state. However, in terms of strength, he might not be able to defeat Little Fire God. After all, one's combat strength didn't depend on one's cultivation. Otherwise, how could Ling Xiao challenge someone of a higher level? Not to mention that everyone was surprised by Ling Xiao's boldness. Even young Master Spectre didn't expect that. Someone actually dared to block his way. Suddenly, a cold, evil aura was released from his body. Behind him, a strange white object appeared. Although it had eyes, it didn't have a human shape. It was obviously the Spectre Martial Soul. With the evil aura, a huge spectre flew out from young Master Spectre's hand and pounced on Ling Xiao. Young Master Spectre didn't lose to Little Fire God in terms of overbearingness. He didn't say anything and directly attacked. However, in the face of young Master Spectre's attack, Ling Xiao just smiled coldly. Suddenly, a golden light appeared on his body. In an instant, the spectre was directly eliminated. Am I seeing things? That kid actually eliminated young Master Spectre's spectre. I've never seen such a situation before. That's right. What happened? Most people only saw a golden light flashing on Ling Xiao's body, and it disappeared in an instant. The moment the golden light appeared, the spirit was erased. Therefore, they really didn't know what Ling Xiao had done. It seems that we have underestimated this young man. I'm afraid his strength is also extraordinary. Otherwise, how dare he stop young Master Spectre from cutting the queue? This was basically the opinion of everyone present. Many people knew how powerful young Noble Yuling was. That was why they ignored his action of cutting the queue. However, Ling Xiao dared to not take young Noble Spectre seriously. If it wasn't because he was strong, it wouldn't make sense. Who are you? Young Noble Spectre was also very curious that someone could resist his dark spirit energy so easily. His voice was cold and murderous. It was obvious that he was a little angry. And who are you? Ling Xiao asked. Hee, you don't even know young Master Spectre of the Spectre Mountain Villa? You've eaten so much for nothing. Someone next to him sneered. Ling Xiao didn't say anything and continued to look at young Master Yuling. That's right. I am young Master Spectre of the Spectre Mountain Villa. Young Noble Yuling finally spoke. Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao also reported his name. Upon hearing this name, young Master Yuling's pupils contracted abruptly, and his heartbeat accelerated. Is it that Ling Xiao on the bounty list? He asked anxiously. That's right, Ling Xiao said lightly. Young Noble Yuling's expression changed slightly. He was too familiar with this name. 2 days ago, he went to the demonic dragon sword court with the elders of the Spectre Mountain Villa. He couldn't believe his eyes. So many experts of the demonic dragon sword court were killed by Ling Xiao. The name Ling Xiao was also deeply imprinted in his heart. His elders had told him not to provoke this person. Hey, it's Ling Xiao on the bounty list. Sigh, it's the one who recently ranked third. It said that he made a scene in the demonic dragon sword court and left alive. The crowd was also in an uproar. The name Ling Xiao was now very popular in the Sword Dynasty. Is it true? Looking at his strength, it's impossible for him to do those things. Could it be another imposter? Yesterday, a guy who pretended to be Ling Xiao was killed. The cultivation that Ling Xiao displayed made it difficult for people to believe that he was the real Ling Xiao. However, young noble Yu Ling didn't want to take the risk. Judging from the other party's arrogant attitude, it was most likely true. He gritted his teeth and didn't cut the line again. Instead, he stood behind Ling Xiao and Chong Qingqing. Young noble Yu Ling was cautious, but it didn't mean that the people following him were cautious. The people of the Spectre Mountain Villa were used to running amok in Tianju City. Seeing that young noble Yu Ling was actually intimidated by the name Ling Xiao, he was a little unhappy. Watch me beat you out of your original form. Suddenly, a person stood out and directly punched Ling Xiao's head. This attack was clearly meant to kill Ling Xiao. Although his cultivation wasn't as good as young noble Yu Ling's, he was still at the early stage of the 17th level of hell. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill Ling Xiao. Boom! The fist smashed hard on Ling Xiao's head. Unexpectedly, the sound of something smashing against steel could be heard. The person who punched felt that his entire hand was numb and painful. Ling Xiao didn't dodge because there was no need to. After executing the Imperial Celestial Dragon Body, this person couldn't hurt him at all. After all, the Imperial Celestial Dragon Body was an advanced general level martial art. Most martial artists at the 18th level of hell might not be able to cultivate to this level of martial art. Cultivation C energy 30%. Ling Xiao calculated silently. When facing the three bandits outside the city gate, Ling Xiao's cultivation had not only recovered to the peak of the 16th level. Moreover, the energy in his cultivation C had also directly increased to more than 20%. After being punched by this person, it directly increased to 30%. However, judging from the extent of this increase, this person's strength was really not that great. He didn't waste any more time. The corners of his mouth curled into a cruel sneer, and his right hand shook lightly. A beam of sword light shot out inadvertently. Ah! A shrill scream came from that person's mouth. The person who attacked Ling Xiao had his entire right arm completely cut off, and blood flowed nonstop. The people of the Mansion of Spirits were originally gloating over Ling Xiao's misfortune. Even young Master Yu Ling wanted to use this person's attack to test whether this person who claimed to be Ling Xiao was the real Ling Xiao. However, at this moment they were all dumbfounded. They didn't see how Ling Xiao did it at all. However, Ling Xiao's terrifying defense was something they had witnessed for themselves. Senior brother, avenge me! The martial artist who had his right arm cut off howled miserably. Young Master Yu Ling's face instantly darkened. Brother, don't you think you've gone too far by doing this? Too far? I've gone too far. Originally, Ling Xiao only wanted to take one arm of the person who sneaked up on him, and he was already being merciful. This was because he didn't want to cause trouble. However, when he heard these words, his face suddenly turned cold. He turned around and pointed with his right hand. Blood immediately gushed out from the throat of the person who sneaked up on him. It seemed that he was about to die. You, how dare you kill me? These were the last words he said before his death. After saying that, he fell to the ground and completely lost his breath. Even when he died, he didn't understand how he died. Chapter 3069. Looking at Ling Xiao, everyone had the same thought in their minds. This is definitely not an imposter. This is the real person. Only the real Ling Xiao would dare to not give young Master Yu Ling face and directly kill the people of the Mansion of Spirits. I'm already giving you face by sparing his life. Am I going overboard? Am I going overboard now? What can you do? Ling Xiao looked at young Master Yuling with a hint of disdain between his brows. He tried to kill me, but I didn't kill him because I was giving him face. But he didn't want it. So I can only send him to the afterlife. Do you want to follow in his footsteps? Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but secretly nod. It was already wrong for the people of the Mansion of Spirits to cut the line, but they actually sneak attacked the other party. If it were an ordinary person, their head would have been blown off by that punch. Ling Xiao was still alive purely because he was capable enough. Even if he killed the other party, it wouldn't be too much. Only cutting off one of the other party's arms would be merciful and giving face. But the other party didn't want to give face, so he killed him. How normal was this logic? But would young Master Yuling accept such logic? Would he accept such a situation? Everyone looked at young Master Yuling, wanting to see what he was going to do. No matter what, even if Ling Xiao was right, he was not giving face to the Mansion of Spirits openly. It was a slap to young Master Yuling's face. Ling Xiao, even if you don't give me face, you should at least give face to the Mansion of Spirits. You actually killed my people in front of me. Isn't this a little too arrogant? Young Master Yuling's evil aura became stronger and stronger, and his whole body was in a state that was about to fight. Everyone watched this scene nervously. Ling Xiao versus young Master Yuling. This was a battle that was very worth watching. I'm already giving face to the Mansion of Spirits by not killing him. It's you who don't want face. Ling Xiao said coldly, since you know my identity, you should understand my temper. You still dare to provoke me. That's courting death. How is the Mansion of Spirits compared to the Demon Dragon Sword Court? Don't you know in your hearts? Young Sir Yuling's expression was somewhat ugly, although Ling Xiao's words were very unpleasant to hear. However, he had to admit that Ling Xiao was right. The other party did not even give face to the Demon Dragon Sword Court and the Demon Master Lan Mimi. A mere Mansion of Spirits was not on the same level as the Demon Dragon Sword Court. Why should they give him face? This guy is too arrogant. Young Master, kill him. That's right, young Master. If we work together to kill this fellow, we'll be able to obtain a large amount of rewards. Maybe even the Demon Dragon Sword Court will send a letter of thanks to our Mansion of Spirits. At that time, I'll really have face. Most of the people in the Manor of Spectres did not have young Noble Spectre's eyesight. Young Master Yuling could sense how powerful Ling Xiao was, but they couldn't. That was why they were furious. They wanted revenge. If you want to kill me, just do it. What are you talking about? Ling Xiao looked at the people from the Mansion of Spirits, mockingly, extremely arrogant. As for the people from the Mansion of Spirits, each and every one of their faces turned ugly. They were shouting happily, but in the end, they still had to rely on young Noble Spectre. If young Noble Spectre did not make a move, even if they were given 10 guts, they would not dare to deal with Ling Xiao. The corpses of their fellow disciples were still lying on the ground. That was a bloody reality. This Ling Xiao's strength is unfathomable. He can even kill the Demon King of the Demon Dragon Sword Court. Although he might have used some secret technique, I definitely don't want to fight him head-on. I can only find another opportunity to plot against him. Young Noble Spectre was also a person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. However, at this moment, he definitely did not want to have a head-on conflict with Ling Xiao. Moreover, he came to Tianjua City this time for the Fire Supreme Catalog, not to fight with others. If he really caused a huge commotion and caused Ling Xiao to go on a killing spree, others might benefit from it. Thinking of this, he finally made a decision. What was a little loss of face? After obtaining the Fire Supreme Catalog, he would slowly think of a way to kill Ling Xiao. He could not have a head-on conflict, but he had plenty of ways to plot against him. Although a fellow disciple had died, that fellow really deserved to die. Moreover, compared to the Fire Supreme Catalog, a cheap life was not worth mentioning at all. All of you, shut up! Young Noble Spectre shouted sternly. The moment these words came out, everyone was stunned. Young Noble Spectre was actually berating his subordinates and not preparing to fight with Ling Xiao? Was he afraid? Those people from the Spectre Mountain Villa could not understand. Young Noble Spectre was not like this, usually. Today, his junior brother was clearly killed, but he still refused to make a move. Could it be that he was really afraid? Seeing that young Noble Spectre had stopped the people from the Spectre Mountain Villa, Ling Xiao did not intend to continue pursuing the matter. After all, business was more important. He received a VIP ticket and then stepped into the rare goods house with Chang Qingqing. A storm was temporarily over just like that, but almost everyone understood that this was just the beginning. The people from the Spectre Mountain Villa would probably not give up so easily. However, to be ranked third on the bounty list without being killed to date, this Ling Xiao was definitely not someone simple. Today's Heaven Absolute City was truly bustling. Ling Xiao obviously had no interest in considering what these people were thinking. At that moment, he had already entered the VIP seats with Chang Qingqing. Then he reclined on the soft armchair. Chang Qingqing did not object to what Ling Xiao had done previously. At times, it was not good to be too cowardly because there would only be more trouble. It was better to display one's strength at appropriate times. Through the gigantic bay window, Ling Xiao and Chang Qingqing could see the entire auction hall. There were a large number of seats below, as well as the auction stage in the middle. Ling Xiao and Chang Qingqing's room was occupied by Fire Cloud Palace's Little Fire God. Next to Little Fire God was the same young girl he had seen in the restaurant. However, the young girl seemed to have been nourished by the rain and dew, making her look more like a woman. Other than the Fire Supreme catalog, you have to pay attention to one more auction item for me, and that is a woman called Phantom. She's ranked 10th on the bounty list. Furthermore, she's so beautiful that it puts the moon to shame and flowers to shame. I have to get my hands on her this time. Little Fire God directly said that he was interested in another woman in front of the young girl. However, the young girl did not show any lack of understanding. To her, Little Fire God was a true god. He was not to be enjoyed by her alone. Second senior brother, if you like her, just give her to Mystical Goods Tower. I believe Phantom will be grateful to you and throw herself into your arms. There were a few people standing behind him. They were all Fire Cloud Palace disciples. Their bootlicking skills were not bad. Don't underestimate this Mystical Goods Tower. To be able to stand tall in Heaven Absolute City without collapsing, it naturally has something special about it. It's best we buy it with money. We don't lack money. Little Fire God said with a wave of his hand. Although Little Fire God was domineering in his actions, he was not without fear. Chapter 3070. I'll take the Fire Supreme catalog. Phantom, I'll take it too. Since Little Fire God had come to Tianju City this time, he did not plan to return empty-handed. In fact, he greedily wanted to get both items. Of course, even the people from Mansion of Spirits can forget about snatching it from us. A group of bootlickers behind him said. Little Fire God was in a good mood. While they were talking, the auction had already begun. There were a total of 12 items, all carefully selected by Rare Goods House. However, Chang Qingqing and Ling Xiao were not interested. Chang Qingqing's target was Phantom. If possible, she would naturally want to get the Fire Supreme catalog. Ling Xiao only had one target, and that was the Fire Supreme catalog. As for other items, if they were suitable, he would naturally want them. Unfortunately, all the way until the 10th item, which was the Phantom, appeared, there was nothing that he wanted. Phantom was the target of this mission. He was not in a hurry. Chang Qingqing would naturally bid. The wanted criminal ranked 10th on the bounty list, Phantom. Not only is she beautiful, she also has a very powerful strength. If you buy her back and take our special obedient medicine, I guarantee that she will be obedient to you. The host said loudly. Ling Xiao did not like slave auctions. He even felt a little disgusted. They were all humans, but they had to be sold here. That feeling was really uncomfortable. This probably had something to do with another memory in his mind. The starting price of Phantom was 3 million middle-grade spirit stones. This price was just right for Phantom's bounty. If someone wanted to bid her back and get the bounty, they could forget about it. Perhaps it was because the host was very attractive to Phantom's publicity. With such a starting price, it quickly rose to 3,500,000 middle-grade spirit stones. To be honest, although Phantom was not bad, spending 3,500,000 middle-grade spirit stones to buy a woman was still very debatable. For a million. Suddenly, a voice came from the VIP box. The voice was filled with a blazing aura that rippled through the entire auction house. Everyone felt the threat and oppression of that blazing aura. Little Fire God wanted to tell others that it was best not to compete with him. Otherwise, they would suffer. People looked at the VIP box and felt as if there was a fire burning in the box. It was incomparably hot. It's Fire Cloud Palace's Little Fire God. Although they couldn't see the situation in the private room, many people guessed correctly. He had long heard that Little Fire God was reckless and overbearing. Now that he had seen it with his own eyes, he was indeed extraordinary. He even dared to threaten everyone in the auction house. However, there was a foundation for his tyranny. He wasn't the only one with outstanding talent and strength. Furthermore, backing him was the powerful Fire Cloud Palace. At the very least, in this generation of Heaven Absolute City, Fire Cloud Palace was extremely powerful. Only Manor Spectre could barely match it. Many experts gave Little Fire God face because of the Fire Cloud Palace backing him. That was why Little Fire God was so arrogant. When this voice was heard, the auction house instantly quieted down. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and announce it. Is there anyone who dares to snatch it from me? Little Fire God said proudly as he looked at the host. Hee for 1 million. Just as Little Fire God finished speaking, someone made a bid. It was only an increment of 10,000, which happened to be the lowest bid. It was obvious that someone wanted to go against Little Fire God. Who is it? Little Fire God was incensed. Someone actually dared to vie with him for a woman. He was courting death. Get out here. Little Fire God didn't make a bid. Instead, he roared in the direction of the voice. That voice also came from the VIP room, right next to his treasure chest. As he spoke, he shattered the wall with a punch. It exposed the person in the other treasure chest. Ha ha, Little Fire God, you sure are impressive. I, young Master Spectre, really wish to compete with you today. Young Master Spectre. Everyone present was astonished. That's right. In the Sky Absolute City, there weren't many people who dared to go against Little Fire God. This young master, Yu Ling, was one of them. Manor Spectre's faction was in no way inferior to Little Fire God. Similarly, young Master Spectre's strength was in no way inferior to Little Fire God. Therefore, he dared to do so. You are courting death. Even against young Master Spectre, Little Fire God remained arrogant. Whether I'm courting death or not, you'll know once you give it a try. Young Master Spectre sneered. At this time, Phantom, who was being auctioned off as a slave, was in despair. A miserable expression appeared on her face. Whether she fell into the hands of young Master Spectre or Little Fire God, she wouldn't have a good life. She would definitely be tortured to death. A ball of fire appeared behind Little Fire God. A terrifying blazing aura rushed toward young Master Spectre. Behind young Noble Spectre, a huge spectre appeared. A cold, evil aura rushed toward Little Fire God. The two auras collided in the void and exploded. It actually blew up several VIP rooms. Most people could only admit that they were unlucky when facing these two people. They hurriedly left, afraid that they would be involved in the battle between these two people. But two people didn't leave, a man and a woman. They were still sitting there motionless, and even seemed to be discussing something in a low voice. Everything around them seemed to have nothing to do with the two of them. Are those two people stupid? The battle between Little Fire God and young Master Spectre will definitely affect them. Who knows? But they are probably quite strong. Otherwise, it's impossible for them to be so calm. No matter how strong they are, they probably can't compare with Fire Cloud Palace and Spectre Manor. As the crowd discussed, Little Fire God and young Master Spectre had already exchanged blows several times. Every time they exchanged blows, the two would increase the price. This caused Phantom's auction price to quickly rise to 5 million mid-grade spirit stones. This was already equivalent to the bounty of Phoenix by Fong. Ha ha! I've long heard that Little Fire God is lustful. Now that I've seen it, it's indeed the case. I can't take out 5 million mid-grade spirit stones to buy a woman. Forget it, I'll give her to you. Young Master Spectre suddenly laughed and stopped. At least you know what's good for you. Little Fire God wasn't happy. No one would be happy to have an extra million mid-grade spirit stones to buy Phantom. However, it felt good to be able to suppress young Master Spectre in terms of aura. He looked at the MC again and said, "Announce the results." The MC nodded and was about to strike the gavel in his hand. All of a sudden, another discordant voice rang out. 5,010,000. The person who spoke was none other than Ling Xiao. They had previously discussed that Ling Xiao would bid because Chong Qingqing wasn't used to such occasions. Of course, the money would be paid by the Nine Defiance organization. The moment Ling Xiao said that, young Master Spectre noticed him. He couldn't help but frown, but immediately chuckled secretly. It was a good opportunity for Little Fire God to test Ling Xiao's capabilities. Little Fire God would be annoyed. Chapter 3071. Little Fire God was very upset. It was one thing for young Master Yuling to compete with him, but now nobody dared to disrespect him. If this went on, how could he survive in the future? That kid is really brave. I've seen him in the restaurant. He was so scared by Little Fire God that he didn't even dare to fart. Why is he suddenly so brave now? He's obsessed with women. He's willing to give up his life for them. That kid must be out of luck. Young Master Yuling has already given up, but he still dares to get involved. He's simply courting death. Many people thought so, especially those who had been in the restaurant. But there were also some people who remained silent. These people had witnessed Ling Xiao killing the disciples of Mansion of Spirits, but he was not afraid of young Master Yuling at all. How could such a person be an ordinary person? Little Fire God quickly thought of Ling Xiao. The corner of his mouth hooked up into a sneer as he looked at Little Fire God and said, "It seems that in the restaurant, that punch should have smashed your head instead of just smashed your table. Kid, listen to me. I want this woman. If you dare to raise the price again, I'll kill your whole family." Having said that, he added another 10,000. 5,020,000. Little Fire God thought that his threat had worked and that the other party would no longer dare to compete with him. However, he did not expect that Ling Xiao would raise the price again just as he finished bidding. 6 million. Ling Xiao directly raised the price to 6 million medium spirit stones to tell Little Fire God that he was determined to get Phantom. He did not put Little Fire God in his eyes at all. It was as if the one competing with him for Phantom was just a clown who was not worth his concern at all. "It seems that you're really courting death." Little Fire God was finally annoyed. Suddenly, a raging fire surged, and a terrifying fire snake violently pounced on Ling Xiao's side of the wall. There was a loud bang. The entire wall of Ling Xiao's box was destroyed. Even Little Fire God's own box was destroyed by the terrible flames. Everyone could clearly see Little Fire God and Ling Xiao. The fire snake didn't stop there. After breaking the wall, it went straight for Ling Xiao. It was as if it wanted to burn Ling Xiao to ashes. Little Fire God was just that rude and unreasonable. The technician bird sneered and waved his hand. The roaring fire snake disappeared. He stood up and looked disdainfully at Little Fire God. "Little Fire God, I think you should be called a big idiot. If you can't afford it, don't embarrass yourself here. Are you stupid enough to destroy other people's buildings to show off how brave you are? Little do you know that by doing so, you are only causing trouble for your sect and Fire Cloud Palace." Ling Xiao's voice was loud as he mocked Little Fire God in front of everyone. Even young Master Yuling wouldn't dare to do such a thing. I'm rude and unreasonable, I'm overbearing, so what? After I kill you, I'll see who else dares to snatch it from me. Little Fire God would never back down in front of his woman. He knew that Ling Xiao was mocking him, but so what? He didn't care. As long as he killed Ling Xiao, he would still be the absolute winner. That was enough. Haha, is that so? Ling Xiao sneered and said, "Feel free to attack. I'll take it on. Do you think I don't dare?" As Little Fire God spoke, his terrifying aura turned more powerful than before. The flames that surged into the sky had turned from fey fire to strange fire. He wanted to kill Ling Xiao and attack with all his might. "Ha ha! Young heroes, why don't you give me some face? This is Mystical Goods Tower, not a place for you to brawl." Suddenly, a graceful woman descended from the void and landed on the auction stage. She was dressed extravagantly and had outstanding looks. Just her gaze was enough to mesmerize thousands of men. But what caught Ling Xiao's attention the most was her strength. Just a single sentence from her was enough to make him feel her aura surge out, suppressing Little Fire God's aura. What a powerful woman! Her cultivation has probably reached the peak of the 17th level of hell in Yinyang realm. Ling Xiao thought to himself, "It's the lady boss of Mystical Goods Tower, Meirua Fox. She's just like her name. She's a vixen. She's so coquettish." "Shoo, keep your voice down. Not only does she look coquettish, but she's also very powerful. Be careful not to offend her. You'll suffer." The appearance of Meirua Fox gave Little Fire God a different idea. He had heard that the lady boss of Mystical Goods Tower was beautiful, but he had never seen her in person. Now that he saw her, he was stunned. After thinking about it, he thought that he could give Phantom to Ling Xiao and take the opportunity to snatch her away. At this moment, he should give Meirua Fox some face. If he did, he might even be able to win her favor. Thinking of this, he smiled and said, "Since the lady boss has said so, I'll back out." "Thank you, Little Fire God." Beautiful Fox winked at Little Fire God, and Little Fire God's eyes glowed with lust. Just like that, Ling Xiao bought Phantom for a high price of 6 million. Of course, he guessed that Jiu and I would not accept the money. He might even have to ask the person who kidnapped Phantom for money. However, this had nothing to do with him for the time being. Jiu-Ni's mission had been completed. He had to work hard for his goal. Because of Meirua Fox's appearance, the battle was suddenly stopped. The original host left the auction stage, and Meirua Fox personally presided over the next auction. The next item is one of the finale items of this auction. It's said to be related to the Fire Supreme catalog, but I don't know if it's really related. So, whether you want it or not depends on your taste. As she spoke, Meirua Fox waved her hand, and a magnificent landscape painting appeared in front of the crowd. It floated in the air. No one was holding it, but it would not fall. However, they could not see how this painting was related to the Fire Supreme catalog. Many people could not make up their minds at the moment. After all, in recent auctions, there were many items that used the 9 Supremes catalog to trick people. It would be a waste of money to buy it. Let's look at the starting price. If it's not high, it's okay to buy it. Almost everyone had the same thought. Meirua Fox smiled and said, "The starting price for this item is 1 million mid-grade spiritual stones." As soon as she said this, there was a sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air. 1 million mid-grade spirit stones to buy something that might not even be related to the Fire Supreme catalog. It was not worth it at all. 1 million low-grade spiritual stones was still acceptable. Looking at the crowd's reaction, Meirua Fox's expression did not change. This item was used to trick people. This item was originally left in the House of Rare Goods after a wanderer was killed. She could sell it for as much money as she wanted. Chapter 3072. 1 million mid-grade spirit stones. I'll try my luck. Young Sir Yuling thought for a while and said, he was a rich man, so he naturally didn't care about 1 million mid-grade spirit stones. It didn't matter, even if he lost it. But others didn't dare to compete with him. 1 million and 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones. I'll try my luck too. Ling Xiao's voice sounded again. This made young Sir Yuling frown. Little Fire God, on the other hand, was gloating. Just now, he had no choice but to take action because of Ling Xiao. Now, it was young Sir Yuling's turn, and the more people Ling Xiao offended, the better he felt. If he wanted to kill Ling Xiao, no one would stop him. What are you doing? Chang Qingqing frowned and said, Joe and I won't pay for this thing, and 1 million mid-grade spirit stones is too expensive. Don't worry, Sister Chang, I'll buy it with my own money. It's mine. Of course, Ling Xiao wanted to buy this. Others couldn't see it, but his Tai Chi eye could. This landscape painting was a picture-in-picture. What was contained within it was the famous Fire Supreme catalog. He had never seen the Fire Supreme catalog, but he had seen the Demon Supreme catalog. These two catalogs were similar and had distinct characteristics. At a glance, one could tell that they were authentic. Unfortunately, no one here knew what they were. He wanted to shout directly, but he was afraid that others would notice. Now that young Sir Yuling had shouted, it was equivalent to giving him a reason. The battle between young Sir Yuling and Little Fire God had almost destroyed his private room. Wasn't it enough for him to be angry? There's no need, Ling Xiao. You're angry with me over a painting. Young Sir Yuling frowned and said, I have money, so what if I like it? Ling Xiao deliberately made himself seem a little impulsive and ignorant. Stupid guy. Young Sir Yuling really wanted to kill Ling Xiao. That hatred was simply unbearable. Just now, when they were queuing outside, Ling Xiao didn't give him face. Now he still dared to do so. I won't add more. You can have this kind of thing if you want. Young Sir Yuling snorted and sat down. Next was the last thing. Although he didn't know what it was, it must be more worthy of attention than the painting and the phantom. He had saved money and was prepared to buy it. Originally, no one was interested in this thing. Since young Noble Spectre did not compete for it, Little Fire God did not compete for it either. The real finale was at the end, so he had to save some money. Next up is the final item of this auction, which is also the most valuable item in this auction. This is the crystal core of a demonic beast from the Dragon Clan. Its quality is extremely high. Our people found it in an ancient mine. Its owner might have already reached the reincarnation divine realm when he was alive. If you were to obtain the core of the demonic beast and refine it into a pill, not only would it raise your cultivation, it would also grant you the dragon's blood and strengthen your body. The starting price is 2 million mid-grade spiritual stones. Every bid must be at least 100,000 mid-grade spiritual stones. Perhaps he was unhappy that Ling Xiao and the others had increased the price by 10,000 mid-grade spiritual stones each time, but this time he increased the price by 10 times. It's a dragon beast core. My tyrant blood demonic dragon beast soul is too low grade and needs to be upgraded. Obtaining this thing will definitely make me stronger. Ling Xiao had accidentally obtained the Fire Supreme catalog and was not very interested in the auction. But when he saw the last item, he became happy again. This auction really came at the right time. However, the pressure of competition would be greater. The reason why this item was the last item was because of its high value. Everyone wanted it. Looking at the eyes of those people, they were all excited and greedy. They were ready to bid. 2,100,000. Finally, someone shouted, 2,500,000. 5 million mid-grade spiritual stones. The price soared all the way from the base price of 2 million to 5 million. It was second only to the price of the phantom. However, this was not the final price, especially since Little Fire God and young Master Yuling had yet to bid. 6 million. Finally, young Noble Spectre spoke. He raised the price from 5 million to 6 million. As expected of the young master of Yuling Mountain Villa, he was rich. Ling Xiao could not compare to them. 6,100,000. This time, it was Little Fire God who bid. Yuling Mountain Villa had caused trouble for Little Fire God before. This time, Little Fire God would not let go of the opportunity to take revenge. Moreover, he also wanted the dragon beast core very much. You too can have it. Why don't you give it to me? 7 million mid-grade spiritual stones. Ling Xiao said coldly. He had a total of 7 million mid-grade spiritual stones. He bit all of them in one go. He had no intention of raising the price. If he could buy it at this price, it would be a good deal. However, it was unlikely. Little Fire God was annoyed when he heard his bid. 8 million. I'll bid 10 million. Young noble Yuling was determined to get the Dragon Clan's crystal core. Although 10 million mid-grade spiritual stones was a huge burden for Yuling Mountain Villa. However, Yuling Mountain Villa believed that his strength would increase greatly if he could get his hands on the Dragon Beast core. It was a good deal. Damn it. Rich people really don't care about money. Ling Xiao cursed and shrugged his shoulders. He really wanted to sell himself to Heavenly Sword Hall. At least he could get 5 million mid-grade spiritual stones. Together with the mid-grade spiritual stones he had, it would be enough. Little Fire God also gave up on bidding. From the looks of it, Fire Cloud Palace was still at a disadvantage in terms of funds compared to Yuling Mountain Villa. Just like that, the Dragon Beast core became Yuling Mountain Villa's. However, he couldn't bring himself to be happy. After all, the price he had paid was too high. He gave Little Fire God and Ling Xiao a cold glance before turning to walk backstage. He had to get his hands on the Dragon Beast core. Although he had bled a lot, it did not matter. Little Fire God stood up and looked coldly at Ling Xiao. If not for Mang Ruhu saving you, you would be dead. You better hide here forever. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die the moment you step out. After saying those harsh words, he turned to leave. That kid really offended Little Fire God and Yuling Mountain Villa. I wonder where he got the guts from. I've seen plenty of people like him. He's just a frog at the bottom of a well who doesn't know what's good for him. However, why does the name Ling Xiao sound so familiar? How is that possible? How can trash like him be famous? There was a flurry of discussion as they prepared to leave the auction hall to watch the show. They absolutely believed that be it Little Fire God or Yuling Mountain Villa, they would not let Ling Xiao off. Chapter 3073. Ling Xiao didn't seem to care about Little Fire God and young Sir Spectre's threats at all. He walked straight to the backstage. Sister Chang, when the fight starts later, you and Phantom should leave first. I'll deal with the trouble I caused myself. Ling Xiao suddenly said, That's impossible. Chang Qingqing shook her head and said, I brought you out, so I have a reason to bring you back safely. This woman didn't talk much, but she was very principled in doing things. All right, thank you in advance. Ling Xiao didn't say anything else. For such a principled person, no matter how much he said, it was useless. When they reached the backstage, Chang Qingqing went to pick up Phantom. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, took away his painting. It was the Fire Supreme catalog. In this way, he had already obtained 2 of the 9 Supremes catalog. Little brother, can you wait for a moment? Just as he was about to leave, the lady boss of Rare Merchandise House, Mei Ruhu, walked over and smiled. How should I address you, little brother? Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao on the bounty list. That's right. After saying that, Ling Xiao and Chang Qingqing left with Phantom. Looking at Ling Xiao's departing figure, the corners of the fox-like mouth curled up into a smile. I'll let you fight with Little Fire God and young Noble Spectre first. Next time, our Rare Goods house will have an even better treasure, Work hard, little guy. Even a Phantom Shadow could be auctioned for a high price of 6 million mid-grade spirit stones. The price of this soaring cloud could only be higher. After all, the Devil Dragon Sword Court wanted him very much. The Heavenly Sword Hall also wanted this guy. The moment they were about to step out of the Rare Merchandise House, Ling Xiao, Chang Qingqing, and Phantom felt danger approaching. Ling Xiao sneered. He lifted his foot and walked out. Ling Xiao, you really have guts to come out. Why don't you come with me to the mansion of specters for a chat? A gloomy aura came from the void. Young Master Spectre appeared outside the rare goods building. He watched the battle between Ling Xiao and found that Ling Xiao was not that powerful. This time around, he absolutely could not allow Ling Xiao to leave the Sky Absolute City alive. Otherwise, even if young Master Yuling was embarrassed, the Manor of Spirits would also be embarrassed. Not interested, Ling Xiao didn't continue walking forward. He just stood there and looked at young Noble Spectre coldly. The other party was here to look for trouble. Naturally, they would not let him leave so easily. Today's battle was unavoidable. Little Fire God, why don't you come out as well? Since you're all looking for trouble, why don't you come at me together? I don't want to waste my time. He suddenly looked at the crowd. Little Fire God and the Fire Cloud Palace members were indeed blocking Ling Xiao's path. When everyone heard this, they all sighed endlessly. This Ling Xiao sure is gutsy. He took the initiative to provoke young Noble Spectre and Little Fire God. Does he really think he can deal with the two of them? Even if he doesn't do that, the two of them won't let him off, right? By doing so, he's just trying to gain some face. He's such a person. The people who were waiting outside to watch the commotion were gloating. After all, Ling Xiao was on the wanted list. To most people, he was a bad guy. It was understandable that they supported Little Fire God and young Noble Spectre. Little Fire God, did you hear that? He's provoking the two of us. Shouldn't we put aside the grudge between us for the time being? Young Noble Spectre said with a smile. That's exactly what I want. Compared to you, a frog in a well like you is more infuriating. Little Fire God said coldly, since he wants the two of us to attack together, let's attack together. It's a good opportunity to see who's stronger. Oh, what do you mean? Young Noble Spectre asked curiously. Simple. Whoever kills him is stronger. However, we are not allowed to obstruct the other party. Little Fire God said. Good idea. Let's kill him. We'll each have one of the two women beside him. Although young Noble Spectre wasn't as lecherous as Little Fire God, he was equally lustful when it came to fair ladies. I want Phantom, Little Fire God said. No problem. The other one is mine. Young Noble Spectre said with a smile. The two of them went back and forth, completely ignoring Ling Xiao and company. Although Phantom was strong, she had been tortured in various ways by mystical Goods Tower. Her strength was no longer what it was before. Furthermore, her body was extremely weak. It was a good opportunity to obtain her without fear of being killed. Other than Phantom, Ling Xiao and Chongqing, they really didn't think much of them. Those who saw this scene were somewhat excited. Those two are good women. Unfortunately, that fellow named Ling Xiao is too arrogant. He actually offended two geniuses of Fire Cloud Palace and Spectre Mountain Manor. Even if he's courting death, that's not the way to seek it. From the point of view of the onlookers, if the two women were defiled, it had to be because Ling Xiao was resisting Little Fire God and young Noble Spectre. Instead, the two of them were not in the wrong. After all, this was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. There's no point in living scum like you in this world, right? Ling Xiao suddenly revealed his killing intent. The terrifying bloodlust took on a corporeal form as it surged towards young Noble Spectre and Little Fire God. He was really going to fight the two of them alone. I'll help you, Phantom said through clenched teeth. After being humiliated in such a manner, she absolutely could not let others suffer for her. It's good that you have such intentions. Sister Chong, watch her. Don't let her do anything rash. These two aren't my match. Instead, they're my opportunity. What Ling Xiao needed was such an opportunity. Only this kind of opportunity could increase his cultivation and allow him to become stronger faster. He was not afraid of getting hurt. After experiencing countless life-and-death battles, he had long been familiar with how to protect himself. As long as it was not a fatal injury, the combination of elixirs and life martial soul could solve it. Even if it was a fatal injury, he could still use the powerful life backtrack skill. Wow, your killing intent is very strong, but it's just for show. Little Fire God sneered. He did not take Ling Xiao's killing intent to heart at all. He only cared about the bet between him and young Noble Spectre. He wanted to kill Ling Xiao as soon as possible. Kill. Little Fire God moved. Like a roaring tropical storm, he rushed towards Ling Xiao. The burning demonic fire made him look like a real god of fire. The fighting intent that bloomed in an instant was blazing and powerful. The surrounding onlookers were all shocked. When Little Fire God attacked, young Noble Spectre naturally did not want to be left behind. If there was no bet, he might not be in such a hurry. But now, he did not want to lose to Little Fire God. A gust of evil wind whistled. Young Noble Spectre's body released an extremely cold and gloomy aura. It was even colder than real ice. It was a kind of evil cold wind. It was so evil that it penetrated deep into one's soul. These two are really terrifying. They live up to their reputation. Many people had only heard of Little Fire God and young Noble Spectre, but they had never seen them fight. Chapter 3074. Previously, many people were doubtful of Little Fire God and young Master Spectre's strength, but after seeing it today, they were completely convinced. The duo's strength was definitely among the best among their peers. Among those of the same level of strength, they were definitely the best. That Ling Xiao can only wait to be burned to death by the fiendish fire. The Fire Cloud Palace members constantly shouted. They obviously hoped that the person who killed Ling Xiao would be Little Fire God and not young Master Spectre. As for Ling Xiao, they believed that he would not even be able to withstand a single strike. What happened in Rare Goods Tower was just Little Fire God showing mercy. He was afraid that smashing Rare Goods Tower would bring trouble. No, Ling Xiao will definitely be tortured to death by Spectre's frost aura. The Spectre Mountain Villa members similarly supported young Master Spectre. To them, young Master Spectre was an invincible existence. Ling Xiao actually dared to kill someone from Spectre Mountain Villa. Today he had to die. Nearly everyone believed that Ling Xiao would die, apart from Chong Qingqing. Chong Qingqing stopped Phantom, who wanted to help. She shook her head and said there's no need. His third place on the bounty list isn't for nothing. Don't worry. If there's any danger, I won't stand idly by. Phantom was taken aback as she looked at the battlefield in disbelief. She could not understand where Chong Qingqing's confidence came from. How could Ling Xiao deal with the combined attacks of Little Fire God and young Master Spectre? It didn't seem realistic. The rest of the people were guessing whether Little Fire God would kill Ling Xiao first, or if young Noble Spectre would do it first. Under their watchful gazes, Ling Xiao's body instantly transformed. The infinite heavenly rat beast soul transformation coupled with the imperial celestial dragon body and the first level of sanguine rat fiend. The beast soul of the purple lightning thunderbull, the nine snake general, and the undying bird were also released. The three beast souls that could still increase Ling Xiao's combat strength. At that moment, Ling Xiao felt very calm. Against two experts, he knew that he was definitely not their match. But this was only temporary. As long as he didn't die, he had a solution. Rumble. The two terrifying energies hit Ling Xiao at the same time, and then completely rushed into Ling Xiao's body. The terrifying energy ravaged Ling Xiao's body. Ling Xiao was sent flying. Half of his body was demonic fire, while the other half was frigid. His aura also decreased sharply at that moment. Phantom screamed and was about to rush forward to save him when Chong Qingqing stopped her. Calm down. I know he bought you and saved you. You don't want him to die, but you underestimate him too much. Look down on you? Chong Qingqing's words were overheard by young Master Spectre and Little Fire God. Both of them looked very unhappy. Did they underestimate Ling Xiao? Ling Xiao had clearly been beaten half to death. Even if he wasn't dead, he wouldn't be able to fight anymore. In fact, their judgment was not wrong. With the terrifying strength of Little Fire God and young Master Spectre, they attacked Ling Xiao, who was only at the peak of the 16th level of hell. It was a miracle that Ling Xiao didn't die. This meant that he was much stronger than ordinary martial artists of the same cultivation level. But it was impossible for him to be fine. But all of this was within Ling Xiao's calculations. He didn't hesitate to let young Master Spectre and Little Fire God's attacks hit his body because he wanted to stimulate more potential in his body. In order to protect his body from being damaged, he would release a lot of potential in his body. This would quickly fill up his cultivation sea. He didn't want to wait. He wanted to recover his previous cultivation as soon as possible and continue to improve his cultivation. Now that the enemies he encountered were getting stronger and stronger, he couldn't continue to waste time here. Otherwise, once people found out that the Fire Supreme Catalog and Demon Supreme Catalog were in his hands, he wouldn't be able to keep them. When his cultivation broke through, Ling Xiao was already on the verge of death. But in the blink of an eye, he was full of energy again. This scene was simply strange. It was incomprehensible. Of course, Ling Xiao used Life Backtrack because he wanted to rely on Life Backtrack to withstand the attacks of young Master Spectre and Little Fire God. Once he recovered to the early stage of Hell, the 17th level of Yin Yang Realm, these two people would no longer be his opponents. Are you scratching my itch? Ling Xiao looked at young Master Spectre and Little Fire God with contempt. He cancelled his previous state. He entered the Undying Bird Beast Soul transformation. He became famous on the bounty list because of the Undying Bird Beast Soul transformation. Today, he would use the Undying Bird Beast Soul transformation to defeat both of them at the same time. Little Fire God and young Master Spectre were very surprised that Ling Xiao didn't die. The two of them looked at each other and immediately attacked again. But this time, the attack was more powerful than the previous one. Previously, they looked down on Ling Xiao and didn't think that Ling Xiao could withstand their joint attack. This time it was different. In order to save face, they couldn't let Ling Xiao continue to live. Kill! The demonic fire turned into strange fire. Little Fire God wanted to completely kill Ling Xiao. His angry roar exploded in the void like thunder. The terrible strange fire enveloped Ling Xiao's body. You're not dead yet. Young Master Spectre also attacked. This time he took out a sword. The sword was almost transparent. The Spectre martial soul merged into the sword, and the sword seemed to come to life. The horrible sword essence soared in an instant. Young Master Spectre stabbed at Ling Xiao with his sword. He wanted to cooperate with Little Fire God to kill Ling Xiao. He didn't care about the previous bet anymore. As long as he could kill Ling Xiao, it was enough. Facing the attacks of the two, Ling Xiao still didn't know what to do. Last time, he was only defending in order to break through the cultivation as soon as possible. This time, he wanted to take the initiative to attack. Bloodthirsty Plague. The sudden outbreak of the bloodthirsty plague instantly penetrated the bodies of Little Fire God and young Master Spectre. Their movements suddenly slowed down a lot, and they had to consume a lot of internal force to suppress the terrible bacteria. Kill! Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ling Xiao released the Undying Flame. This strange fire devoured Little Fire God's strange fire and then rushed at young Master Spectre. Boom! Ah! A shrill scream came from young Master Spectre's mouth. He was burned alive by the strange fire. Young Master Spectre is dead? He was burned to death. Is it Little Fire God's strange fire? Why? Most people didn't see what Ling Xiao did. They only saw Little Fire God and young Master Spectre attacking Ling Xiao, but young Master Spectre was burned to ashes by the strange fire. Young Master Spectre, who was at the late stage of Hell at the 17th level of Yin Yang Realm, died without knowing anything? He died without knowing why. It wasn't me. Little Fire God shook his head and was a little dumbfounded. I attacked Ling Xiao. Why are you looking at me? Are you all blind? That guy also knows how to use strange fire. He killed young Master Spectre. Are you stupid? Young Master Spectre and I have a common enemy. Why would I kill young Master Spectre? Little Fire God was also stunned. Young Master Spectre's death was too sudden. Chapter 3075. Young Master Spectre had been burned to death by the strange fire. Little Fire God was also frightened out of his wits. After all, Spectre Mountain Manor and Fire Cloud Palace were existences on the same level. Once they were embroiled in the matter of young Master Spectre, it would only benefit others. Therefore, he had to give a clear explanation. He was not the one who killed young Master Spectre, but Ling Xiao. What a despicable punk. He actually wants to sow discord and instigate a war between our Spectre Mountain Manor and Fire Cloud Palace. Compared to Ling Xiao, the people from Spectre Mountain Manor were clearly more willing to believe in Little Fire God. Furthermore, although they did not see how Ling Xiao had attacked, everyone had a feeling that Ling Xiao had done something at that instant. It resulted in young Master Spectre's tragic death. Ling Xiao sneered and did not say a word. He picked up young Master Spectre's storage ring that had fallen to the ground. The Dragon Clan's crystal core was still in there. How lucky! After wandering around for a while, it finally landed in his hands. He had saved 10 million middle-grade spirit stones. Brothers, let's fight it out with him. He actually dared to kill young Master Spectre and snatch his storage ring. Kill him! The people from Spectre Mountain Manor were not that strong, but they were extremely rash and foolish. Ling Xiao was not even afraid of the combined forces of Little Fire God and young Master Spectre. So what could they do? As a result, a group of people charged at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao put away the dragon crystal core and looked coldly at these people. Have you forgotten what I did in the demonic dragon sword court so quickly? Since you want to kill me, then all of you can die. Ling Xiao took a gentle step forward with his right foot as his killing intent billowed. This terrifying killing intent caused the hearts of the people from Spectre Mountain Manor to palpitate. This killing intent was able to destroy a person's fighting spirit. It was terrifying. Quick, retreat. Finally, someone sensed Ling Xiao's strength and shouted loudly as they fled into the distance. However, it was already too late. Monstrous fey flames were released from Ling Xiao's body. It was like a sea of fire that dyed half the sky red. The flames were ferocious and extremely hot. The people on the streets made way. Little Fire God was even more shocked. Ling Xiao's demonic fire was not inferior to his at all. His title of Little Fire God was indeed a little exaggerated. The raging fire turned into a huge immortal bird. A pitch-black immortal bird. Evil immortal bird. The immortal bird was filled with the aura of destruction and slaughter. It spread its huge wings and covered everyone in the mansion of spirits. What a terrifying demonic flame. I suddenly remember. Isn't he the terrifying existence, ranked 3rd on the bounty list? Is it really him? It can't be wrong. It's said that this person has the beast soul of the immortal bird and can transform into the immortal bird. Ming City's City Lord and Devil Dragon Sword Court's Devil Envoy Lin Xian both died in the flames of the Undying Bird. People finally confirmed the identity of Ling Xiao. But at this time, the people of the Mansion of Spirits did not have the chance to confirm it. Facing the huge black Undying Bird, they had no choice but to flee in panic. However, it was useless. The black Undying Bird was not only powerful, but also extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped everyone in the Mansion of Spirits. Hysterical screams continued to be heard. When touching the black flame, the people of the Mansion of Spirits did not have any resistance and could only cry out in pain. Then, their bodies were quickly burned by the flame. They were completely turned into ashes. When Ling Xiao took back the Undying Bird, everyone in the Mansion of Spirits had disappeared. It was as if they had never appeared, and their internal force, through the Undying Bird, was integrated into Ling Xiao's cells and turned into potential. What kind of attack is this? It's too terrifying. What a powerful martial spirit. This Ling Xiao is simply too powerful. I'm afraid that even Little Fire God is not his opponent. I suddenly remembered that Ling Xiao once caused havoc in the Devil Dragon Sword Court. Even the Devil Lord, Lan Mei, could not do anything to him. Why did I hear that it was because of another powerful person who helped Ling Xiao at that time? I've also heard about this. It's called the 18th sword. But even so, Ling Xiao is strong enough. Monstrous waves surged in everyone's heart. They originally thought that Ling Xiao was no match for little fire god and young Master Yuling. However, at this time the people of the Mansion of Spirits had all been killed, including young Master Yuling. They were all turned into ashes by the terrifying flame. They had disappeared. This scene was really too shocking. They had threatened to make Ling Xiao unable to leave Tianju City. In the end, little fire god and young Master Yuling joined forces and did not do anything to Ling Xiao. On the other hand, young Master Yuling died tragically, leaving little fire god in a daze. The people of the Mansion of Spirits were also wiped out. The monstrous flame was still burning on Ling Xiao's body. At this time, Ling Xiao looked like the real fire god descending to the world. At this moment, everyone suddenly realized that the reason why Ling Xiao dared to be enemies with little fire god and young Master Yuling was that he was strong enough. He was stronger than young Master Yuling. He might even be stronger than little fire god. This guy is a real genius, a martial artist from a small country who has not been in the Sword Dynasty for long and has risen like a comet. Who would believe that he has no talent? Everyone understood at this time. Did little fire god understand? They looked at little fire god. Facing all that had happened now, what should little fire god do? At this time, little fire god was still in shock. He was no longer as arrogant and domineering as before, because he knew that he had encountered a strong opponent and kicked an iron plate. Just now, he had attacked Ling Xiao with a strange flame, but Ling Xiao had used it to burn young Master Yuling alive. He had never encountered such a thing before. His heart was still trembling even now. I had warned that trash young Master Yuling not to provoke me. When we were queuing up, he did a good job. But for some reason, he actually became arrogant and thought that he could kill me. In the end, he was turned into ashes. Ling Xiao turned his head and looked at little fire god. A mocking expression appeared on his face. And you, little fire god, you are the same. Do you think that you can be fearless just because you have mastered the technique of using the strange flame? You are also a trash. What qualifications do you have to show off in front of me? I have seen many people like you. There are many who are stronger than you. Nonsense. My Prince Charming is the strongest. You are the trash. Suddenly, a voice came from the crowd. It was the girl who had constantly provoked and slandered Ling Xiao in the restaurant. Previously, Ling Xiao did not argue with her because he did not want to ruin Chang Qingqing's plan. Now that he had saved her, he felt that he did not need to show mercy. You can treat this trash as your Prince Charming, but you should pay the price for slandering me and humiliating me. Slap! After Ling Xiao finished speaking, his figure flashed, and a slap was delivered. Before the girl could see Ling Xiao's movements, her mouth was already swollen. She could not even speak clearly. Chapter 3076. The few people that followed the girl hurriedly knelt down. Thank you, young hero Ling, for sparing our lives. It was our fault for looking down on you. Scram! Although these people were annoying, their crimes did not warrant death. Ling Xiao's anger was appeased by slapping the girl. Yes. The few people carried the girl and left in a hurry. They were afraid that the girl would say something that would infuriate Ling Xiao, causing Ling Xiao to go on a killing spree. They were doomed then. The people from Spectre Mountain Villa were the perfect example. Little Fire God's expression turned ugly when he saw Ling Xiao's actions. However, he did not know how to refute Ling Xiao. He even felt fear rise in his heart. After all, he had failed to defeat Ling Xiao even when he joined forces with young Master Spectre. Could he really do it alone? In the restaurant, you threatened me with a fiendish fire to burn my dining table just because I said I wasn't afraid of you. In the auction house, you attacked me just because you couldn't compete with me. You flaunted the might of your flames. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? I just find it beneath me to bicker with trash like you. Little fire god, you sure are shameless. What right do you have to use fire in front of me? With every sentence Ling Xiao said, he took a step forward. The invisible suppression turned heavier and stronger. The towering flames were like a ferocious fiery beast that stared intently at little fire god. It was extremely terrifying. The terrifying flames were more domineering and powerful than little fire god's flames. It was even more domineering and indomitable. Although Ling Xiao was not good at playing with fire, he was definitely little fire god's ancestor. What a domineering aura! What a terrifying flame! When people saw this scene, they could not help but feel fear. Little fire god was suppressed by Ling Xiao to the point of not daring to say a word. All he could do was circulate his internal energy to resist Ling Xiao's suppression. The Fire Cloud Palace disciples, who only knew how to bootlick, seemed to have their mouths sealed. They did not dare make a sound. As for the girl who was doted on by little fire god, her eyes were unfocused. She worshipped heroes, because little fire god was domineering and powerful enough. In the restaurant, Ling Xiao didn't even dare to say a word, so she worshipped him and didn't hesitate to give her body to him. But at this moment, little fire god, on the other hand, was being oppressed by the guy she looked down on and didn't even want to look at. Her heart was about to break. He could feel Ling Xiao's increasing momentum and fighting spirit. Little fire god's brows were knitted together. He thought that his flames were domineering and powerful enough. But Ling Xiao was even worse. Furthermore, this fellow probably hadn't used his full strength yet. The more little fire god thought about it, the more terrified he felt. But he couldn't lose. They couldn't retreat either. What he cultivated was a tyrannical and unreasonable martial art. Once he was afraid and retreated, he would be completely finished. What are you panicking for? I haven't lost yet. Little fire god took a deep breath and turned to glare at the girl beside him. Soon after, his fighting spirit completely exploded. The boiling flames turned into a ferocious giant wolf, the Wolf of Flames. I've never seen little fire god use this move before. It should be his trump card. Ling Xiao can actually push him to this extent. No wonder he's third on the bounty list. Everyone could feel how terrifying little fire god was at this time. For the first time, little fire god used a powerful move that he had never used before. Ling Xiao, I've underestimated you. I thought you were just an ordinary passerby, but I didn't expect you to be so powerful. But do you think that's all I have? You're wrong. In terms of flames, no matter what, you can't be compared to me. Today I'll burn you alive. Little fire god seemed to have used his last trump card, and all his confidence returned in an instant. Once again, he had that kind of domineering momentum. Once again, he began to look down on Ling Xiao and despise Ling Xiao. You said you're the ancestor of fire? How ridiculous. I was born with the unusual flame. After 10 years of cultivation, I can completely control the unusual flame. After reincarnating, I obtained the fiery demon wolf martial soul, and my control of fire was even more perfect. After that, I defeated countless enemies of the same generation and became little fire god. But I've never shown this move in front of anyone because it's my strongest move. Even a martial artist of the first rotation yin-yang stage of hell wouldn't dare to face it head-on. You'll die, but if you die under this move, you'll be famous enough. Little fire god's confidence returned, and his tone returned to its previous domineering manner. Everyone listened to his words and secretly nodded, thinking that this might be the reversal of the battle. I'll say it again. You're not as good as me when it comes to playing with fire. You think you're a genius, but in fact, you're just a frog at the bottom of a well. You've only met trash. Ling Xiao sneered and said, I've only obtained the undying bird beast soul for a month, but it's more than enough to kill you. He can use his new martial soul to such an amazing extent in just a month? That's too powerful. Everyone was incomparably astonished, but they were also a little unhappy. Ling Shao said that little fire god was a frog at the bottom of a well, and that little fire god had defeated trash. Wasn't that referring to them? This guy was really arrogant. It was really upsetting. At this time, they hoped that little fire god could defeat Ling Shao and teach him a lesson. Little fire god, you're the strongest. Kill that arrogant bastard. Anyway, that guy is on the bounty list. Killing him won't be a problem. Voices came one after another from the crowd. This made Phantom anxious again. She didn't know Ling Shao and only thought that Ling Shao had saved her, so she was worried about Ling Shao. Sister Chong, is he okay? He's fine. Chong Ching shook her head and said, a frog at the bottom of a well will never see the scenery outside the well. And those people who were clamoring were just frogs at the bottom of a well, like little fire god. So they didn't understand the horror of Ling Shao at all. Those people of the Demon Dragon Sword Court were either killed by Sword 18 or Ling Shao. It's just that Lan Mimi felt that it was too shameful, so she put all the blame on Sword 18. If Ling Shao really goes crazy, I'm afraid that even Falling Moon is no match for him. He's so powerful. This time, it was Phantom's turn to be surprised. After all, Ling Zhao's cultivation didn't seem to be that strong. Pay attention, Chong Ching said calmly. Yes, unparalleled flame wolf. This was Little Fire God's move. He took a step forward. His entire body had transformed into a gigantic demonic wolf. Above the demon wolf's body, there was a terrifying, strange fire. The surrounding air was burning and crackling. The terrible heat melted the ground in an instant. The nearby martial artists were so scared that they hurriedly dodged. In terms of momentum, this unparalleled flame wolf really didn't lose to the immortal bird that Ling Shao released before. It was as if it blotted out the sky and covered the earth, pressing towards Ling Shao. Kill. The flames were monstrous. It was extremely fast. Chapter 3077. This move of the unparalleled flaming wolf seemed to be very straightforward and easy to dodge. However, as long as one had the slightest bit of eyesight, one would be able to tell that this attack was simply unavoidable. The moment the move was released, it had completely locked onto the opponent. Little Fire God said that he had never used this move before, but it was not accurate, because this move still caused him pain in his heart even now. Back then, his cultivation was at the middle stage of the 17th layer of hell, and he had a good friend whose cultivation had reached the peak of the 17th layer of hell. When the two of them were fighting, Little Fire God was beaten a little miserably. So he used this move in a fit of rage, and the woman was killed on the spot. This matter was taboo and painful for Little Fire God, so he did not want to mention it. However, he knew how terrifying this move was. When the flame wolf came out, ghosts and gods would be destroyed. He had sealed this move since then, but he knew better than anyone how powerful this move was. The onlookers could also feel that the destructive aura was even more powerful than that of the undying bird. Ling Shao is dead meat. Yes, with this move, even young Master Spectre is no match for Little Fire God. No, he's far from it. This move is completely unbeatable. Anyway, I don't see any chance for Ling Shao. Everyone was filled with dread towards this move. Even Chong Ching frowned slightly. Her cultivation was very high, so she could feel the horror of this move. She was very confident in Ling Shao before, but at this moment she began to worry. The roaring flame wolf pounced crazily on Ling Shao. The flames completely engulfed Ling Zhao's body. People seemed to have seen Ling Zhao's death. However, the bow and arrow that Chong Ching took out was put back. She was worried about Ling Shao just now, but at this moment she suddenly realized that she might have underestimated Ling Shao. How is this possible? Almost everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, and they looked at the battlefield in confusion. Ling Shao, who should have been incinerated, didn't even move, bathing in the heavenly flame. His face was filled with a disdainful smile. He just stood there as if nothing had happened. Is this person a ghost or a devil? Why aren't you afraid of heavenly flames? People could not understand. Deviant flames could even burn life-seizers to death. If one didn't have a special magic treasure or secret technique, it would be impossible to block it. Moreover, even if he had special magical treasures and secret techniques, it was impossible for him to come out unscathed. I've said it before. You're not qualified to play with fire in front of me. Ling Xiao's voice could be heard from within the raging flames. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, he simply threw out a simple punch. Were you born with a deviant flame? Then I'll extract it. Ling Xiao already had a deviant flame, so he didn't need any more deviant flames. This was, of course, for Xiao Jin. With the deviant flame, little gold strength would definitely increase explosively. Run. When little fire god saw that Ling Xiao was unharmed by the deviant fire, he knew that he had no chance of winning today's battle. Terrified, he turned around and tried to escape. However, Ling Xiao's hand was like a ghost as it shot out from the depths of the void, transforming into a gigantic devil claw. It was like the talons of an undying bird. It grabbed the little flame, making it impossible for him to move. Then, Ling Xiao's other hand began to glow with a black light, almost like a black hole. Black prison. Devour. A-C. As the black prison opened, a flame spark flew out from Little Flame's body and into the cell. Over there was the kindling of the deviant flame. Once it was extracted, Little Fire God would no longer be able to use the deviant flame. How bizarre! How terrifying! This man, Ling Xiao, is definitely not to be trifled with. Many of the onlookers were bounty hunters, and many of them had considered capturing Ling Xiao for the bounty. However, seeing this bizarre and terrifying scene, they were scared out of their wits. Someone could actually extract the deviant flame spark from someone else's body. Did that mean that he could even extract the martial soul? At this time, Little Fire God's expression was extremely flustered, looking at the disappointed and even desperate expression of the girl he doted on. He was about to go crazy. However, being controlled by Ling Xiao, he could do nothing. He claimed to be Little Flame, but he had completely lost to Ling Xiao in the aspect of fire. Xiao Chen did not even manage to injure Ling Xiao at all. Instead, his heavenly flame was about to be snatched away. He was not willing to accept this. But so what? He mocked Ling Xiao, said that Ling Xiao was a good-for-nothing, and said that Ling Xiao was a coward. However, reality slapped him hard in the face. As Ling Xiao said, he did not know how to play with fire at all. He was not a genius. He was just a frog at the bottom of a well. His opponent was just a good-for-nothing. He was devastated. He was utterly devastated. His heart was in a complete mess. Without the deviant flame, his strength would be greatly reduced. Those he had offended in the past would definitely take this opportunity to make trouble for him. When that time came, he would be the target of bullying. He did not want that. Perhaps death is a good thing for you. At this time, Ling Xiao had completely extracted Little Flame's deviant flame spark. His huge demonic claws began to close, and he was going to kill Little Flame. Little Flame had repeatedly tried to kill him. He would not show mercy. Seeing this scene, many people became nervous. Was another genius going to fall at the hands of Ling Xiao? Ling Xiao's strength was so powerful. Little Flame had completely lost his will to resist. His eyes were glazed over and his body was numb. He was like a walking corpse. That was because he was really shocked. The deviant flame that he thought was powerful was not worth mentioning in the eyes of others. It was a devastating blow to his self-confidence. How dare you, thief! Suddenly, a ball of fire came from afar. When it got closer, they realized it was a person. The person was extremely fast. He flew like a flaming meteor. The person was too fast. Ling Xiao had to give up on Little Flame. He took out the demon dragon sword and stabbed it into the sky. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground collapsed. Ling Xiao was directly smashed into the ground. At that moment, the energy in his cultivation skyrocketed by 20%. It was enough to show that the person's strength was terrifying. Kid, hand over the deviant flame, or I'll kill you without mercy." The person stood arrogantly in front of Little Flame and looked down at Ling Xiao. As long as Ling Xiao handed over the deviant flame, he would spare Ling Xiao's life. "Kill me without mercy." Ling Xiao jumped out of the collapsed ground. Although blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth, he was not seriously injured. The person's cultivation level was probably at the peak of the 17th level of hell. Although he was stronger than Ling Xiao, he was not qualified to kill Ling Xiao. "Haha, if you want the deviant flame, do it yourself. I'm very interested in you." As he spoke, Ling Xiao's body began to transform. The undying bird beast soul transformed into the unbounded heavenly rat beast soul. Chapter 3078. Oh! The person looked at Ling Xiao in astonishment. He originally thought that his punch would at least be able to severely injure Ling Xiao, but who would have thought that this brat actually only seemed to be slightly injured? Furthermore, his combat strength seemed to have increased. It must be an illusion. This punk is bluffing. The person shook his head and abandoned his ridiculous thoughts. "All right, since you have chosen death, I'll send you to your death." The person roared angrily as he struck out with his fists once again. His martial soul was also a fire elemental wolf martial soul. He did not have a strange flame, but his strength was even stronger than the peerless fire wolf. This meant that this person's strength was much stronger than Little Fire God's. "Nice one!" Ling Xiao put away his demon dragon sword and decided to clash fists with his opponent. In less than a minute, the two of them had exchanged nearly 30 blows. As for Ling Xiao's cultivation sea energy, it had increased from 20% to 90%. The time for the next breakthrough was fast approaching. "Ling Xiao, it's time to leave." Chang Qingqing's voice suddenly sounded in Ling Xiao's ears. "Phantom's situation isn't right." Upon hearing this, Ling Xiao shook his head helplessly. He suddenly retreated and arrived beside Chang Qingqing. Then, the two of them tore through the sky with Phantom in tow. "Fleeing when you can't beat him? How shameless!" The Fire Cloud Palace expert roared angrily at the fleeing Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao is indeed not that heaven-defying. At the very least, he won't be able to withstand a warrior at the peak of the 17th level of hell at the Yin-Yang realm. However, will he be able to escape? Everyone had such thoughts. But at that moment, an arrow flew over from afar. Elemental arrow. Frost arrow. It was extremely fast and had immense might. When it shot over, it seemed to freeze space itself. Everyone standing there felt like they were about to be frozen by the terrifying frost. What a terrifying arrow! The Fire Cloud Palace expert was given a fright as he tried his best to withstand it. Uft! That arrow still pierced through his throat, leaving his life behind in the Heaven Extinction City. Before he died, he shouted out a name, "Divine Arrow Chang Qingqing." He fell to the ground and became a complete joke. He was here to save Little Fire God. His words could easily kill Ling Xiao, but in the end, the one who died was him. Ranked 7th on the bounty board is Divine Archer Chang Qingqing, an expert at the First Revolution Yin-Yang Realm's 18th level of hell. So she was the woman by Ling Xiao's side. She was the scariest. If she had made a move, Little Fire God and young Master Yuling would have died a long time ago. At the end of the day, we thought that it was Ling Xiao who was courting death. Who would have thought that the ones courting death were actually young Sir Spectre and Little Fire God? Even if Ling Xiao is no match for them, they can't possibly kill Ling Xiao. Upon seeing the Fire Cloud Palace expert's corpse on the ground, Little Fire God was dumbfounded once again. What the hell have I done? What kind of person did you offend? On the other side, Ling Xiao, Chang Qingqing, and Phantom had already mounted their fairy birds and were flying towards Confusion Fog Valley. On the fairy bird's back, Phantom was constantly trembling, as though she was in great discomfort. "Let me take a look," Ling Xiao said. It would take a long time to rush back to Confusion Fog Valley. Phantom might not be able to last much longer. After all, he was an alchemist. Although his specialty was not saving people, but alchemy, he was not bad at saving people. After all, he had the primordial nature, dragon, martial soul in him. Although it had never been exposed, the primordial nature, dragon, martial soul had powerful healing effects. It was definitely a fact. Can you do it? Chang Ching looked suspiciously at Ling Xiao. If I can't, am I going to let her wait for death? Ling Xiao did not waste his breath as he began inspecting Phantom's body. Moments later, he could not help but curse. What a vicious, mystical goods tower. They actually gave Phantom the poison, 7 days powder. 7 days powder? So she can only live for 7 days? Chang Ching asked. The 7 days powder doesn't mean that she can only live for 7 days. After 7 days, she will definitely turn into a pool of blood. From the first day, her body will begin to rot. Ling Xiao said coldly, "What grudge does this mystical goods tower have with you for them to be so vicious?" "There's no grudge?" Chang Ching shook her head and said, "Then let's not bother about that for now. I'll save her. If she's poisoned, it's actually easier for me." Ling Xiao smiled and released his 9-snake general martial soul. Following that, a snake head stretched out and bit Phantom's wrist. It began sucking the poisoned blood. "Will you be fine?" Chang Ching asked worriedly. "Don't worry. I'm fine. The poison was not sucked by me, but fused into my 9-snake general martial soul. Not only will I be fine, it will even increase my strength." Ling Xiao shook his head. He had a better impression of Chang Ching. Chang Ching had shot the Fire Cloud Palace expert and was worried about his safety. This was something only a friend would do. This meant that this woman did not treat him as an outsider. She was just not good with words, so she looked a little cold. Following that, the two of them did not speak. Before they arrived at Mist Valley, Ling Xiao withdrew his 9-snake general martial soul. Following that, he gave Phantom a pill that restored her stamina and energy. Miraculously, Phantom was alive and kicking. Upon seeing this scene, Chang Ching hugged Ling Xiao and thanked him profusely. Phantom and Falling Moon were her best sisters. Regardless of which one of them was in trouble, Chang Ching would be in extreme pain. Now, the problem that gave her a headache had been easily resolved by Ling Xiao. This truly surprised Chang Ching. "Ahem, Sister Chang, I've expended quite a bit of energy. I need to rest. Call me when we arrive." Ling Xiao said awkwardly. Only then did Chang Ching realize that her actions were a little rash. She shyly released Ling Xiao as her cheeks flushed red. Just as she released her grip, Phantom pounced forward again. Upon realizing that she had been saved by Ling Xiao, the lively girl was much bolder than Chang Ching. She left several lipstick marks on Ling Xiao's face. It left Ling Xiao helpless. "Sister Chang, why don't we let Ling Xiao join the 9 Defiance? He definitely won't have a problem." Phantom suggested. Brother Bifong has long mentioned this, but Ling Xiao isn't willing. Chang Ching said helplessly. "Yes, is that so? He isn't willing to join the 9 Defiance, but it shouldn't be a problem for him to become our good brother, right? The 32 of us in the 9 Defiance have all become sworn brothers. Our hearts are linked, and we take care of each other. With Ling Xiao, it shouldn't be a problem, right?" Phantom added, "Becoming sworn brothers is just a formality. As long as we're really good to each other, we don't need to become sworn brothers, and we'll still be life and death friends. And some people, even if they're sworn brothers and sisters, still want to target them. Then it's better not to become sworn brothers." Ling Xiao really had no interest in becoming sworn brothers. He had many good brothers who had never become sworn brothers. But no matter who was in danger, they would help each other, even at the cost of their lives. That was the true meaning of being affectionate and true. Chapter 3079. Seeing that Ling Xiao wasn't interested, Phantom did not mention the matter of becoming sworn brothers. She was only filled with gratitude towards Ling Xiao. As for Ling Xiao, He was calculating his gains from Tianju City. Firstly, it was probably Phantom and Chang Qingqing's trust in him. This trust was not to be underestimated. If he were to encounter any trouble in the future, they would definitely help him. This was more important than any divine weapon. Secondly, it was obviously the Fire Supreme catalog. This provided him with the necessary conditions to obtain the 9 Supremes catalog in the future. Next was the Dragon Crystal Core he obtained from young Master Spectre's storage ring. This item could strengthen the Tyrannosaurus Blood Fiend Dragon and could also be used to obtain new beast souls. It all depended on the additional skills. With the constant strengthening of the bloodthirsty rat plague, the effects of the fiend dragon blood curse gradually became less important. He planned on changing it, but he couldn't change it casually. Also, he had extracted the heavenly fire seed from Little Fire God's body. This was a guarantee for Little Gold's continued evolution. Looking at it this way, his harvest this time was really not small. Although it was a little troublesome, he was already a wanted criminal. It wasn't a big deal to offend Fire Cloud Palace and Spectre Mountain Manor. After returning to Mist Valley and hearing about Tianju City's matter, the Baifeng and company were naturally very grateful to Ling Xiao. They knew very well that if not for Ling Xiao, Phantom would probably have died from the poison. The relationship between people was always deepened step by step. Previously, the Baifeng and company only felt that Ling Xiao was of the same kind and that he was a promising talent that could be used. Therefore, they saved him. But things were different now. Ling Xiao had saved their good sister, Phantom. Their feelings for Ling Xiao naturally improved as they became extremely grateful. Ling Xiao didn't care about this. He smiled and returned to his residence to begin his cultivation. Long Chin and Cold Plum were cultivating, but Little Gold didn't need to. The increase in his strength was completely obtained by devouring heat energy. Stand guard for me. Don't let anyone disturb me. Ling Xiao called out to Xiao Jin and entered a state of cultivation. Through the analysis of the Tai Chi Eye, Ling Xiao could confirm that the Dragon Clan crystal core he had obtained was really the crystal core of an ancient dragon. When this demonic beast was alive, its strength had already reached the reincarnation deity realm and was incomparably powerful. Its name was Frost Dragon. It was a type of undead creature that was artificially created. Although it could not be compared to the primordial dragons and divine dragons, it possessed extremely terrifying abilities. I've decided, change it. Ling Xiao was preparing to replace the tyrant blood demon dragon on the dragon god throne with an even more powerful frost dragon. With this decision, he directly swallowed the Dragon Clan crystal core into the mountain river world and began to convert it. A quarter of an hour later, a huge and ferocious frost dragon appeared behind him. His entire body seemed to be wrapped in frost, but his entire body seemed to be just a skeleton. A pair of huge dragon eyes burned with a strange purple-blue flame. The Tyrannosaurus blood dragon beast soul had completed its mission, and Ling Xiao merged with the frost dragon beast soul. After the Dragon Clan crystal core was converted into a martial soul, a large amount of energy was released. Most of it merged into Ling Xiao's cells, and some began to impact the barrier of Ling Xiao's cultivation. The energy in his cultivation had already reached 90%, and with this impact it instantly broke through. This allowed Ling Xiao to advance from the early stage of the 17th level of hell of the Yinyang realm to the middle stage of the 17th level of hell. Moreover, the energy in his cultivation continued to increase until it reached 80% before it stopped. Frost Dragon Breath? Ling Xiao, who had broken through, began to observe the special skill that the Frost Dragon had obtained. It was the Frost Dragon Breath. It could instantly spit out a terrifying dragon breath with a powerful freezing ability. This thing was very useful when dealing with a group of people. When dealing with experts, it could also be used to slow down the opponent's speed and control the opponent's attack. It could be said to be very useful. Ling Xiao was also very satisfied. After that, he went into seclusion for another hour to consolidate his cultivation. Then he gave the alien flame seed extracted from Little Fire God's body to Little Gold and let Little Gold begin to devour and integrate it. He placed Little Gold in the mountain river world to cultivate. Then he walked out of his residence. Master, Cold Plum had arrived at some point and was obediently guarding outside the door. She had no intention of barging in. She was still as considerate as before. Your strength seems to have improved again. Not bad. Ling Xiao could feel that although Cold Plum's cultivation did not break through, it had greatly improved. Thank you for your concern, Master. Cold Plum smiled very happily. She had been looking forward to being able to protect Ling Xiao by his side. Now that her wish had been fulfilled, how could she not be happy? Ling Xiao, Cold Plum, something big has happened. Brother Bai Fong has called us for a meeting. Phantom ran over excitedly and shouted from afar. I'm not a member of the Nine Defiance organization yet. Is it appropriate for me to attend this meeting? Ling Xiao smiled bitterly. No problem. This meeting has something to do with you. Phantom grabbed Ling Xiao's arm and pulled him out. Ling Xiao had no choice but to follow. In fact, he was also very curious as to what meeting the Nine Defiance organization was having that had something to do with him. When the two of them arrived, they realized that apart from Long Qin, the others were already there. Falling Moon, Bai Fong, Ba Dao, Dragon Elephant, and Chong Ching were all there. Ling Xiao and Cold Plum are here. Long Chen is still in seclusion, so let's not wait for him. There are 3 matters to be discussed in today's meeting. Bai Fong said very solemnly, the first matter is that Ling Xiao killed young Master Spectre in Heaven Absolute City and severely injured Little Fire God. Qing also killed an elder from Fire Cloud Palace. Therefore, Spectre Mountain Villa and Fire Cloud Palace are now searching for us everywhere. This matter doesn't matter. After all, we don't think much of Spectre Mountain Villa and Fire Cloud Palace. I'm just reminding everyone to be careful when we leave. Do not underestimate the enemy. I was the one who caused the trouble. I'll think of a way to resolve Fire Cloud Palace and Spectre Mountain Villa. Ling Xiao said. Ling Xiao, we treat you as a brother. Aren't you treating us like outsiders by saying that? Bai Fong was somewhat displeased. Haha, that's true. Brother Bai Fong, didn't you say that there were 2 other matters? Ling Xiao diverted the topic with a laugh. Yes, right. The second matter is also very important. Heaven Absolute City's Fire Supremacy Catalog has been proven to be a fake. However, in the Heaven Absolute ruins not far from Heaven Absolute City, signs of the Ice Supremacy Catalog were discovered. Bai Fong said with a laugh. Ice Supremacy Catalog? Ling Xiao thought to himself. My luck can't be so good, right? I can actually obtain the Ice Supreme Catalog so quickly? Bai Fong continued. According to Nine Defiance Intelligence, the Heaven Absolute ruins climate is extremely hot. Its surroundings are basically a desert. But recently there was a strange phenomenon. The desert turned into an icy plain. Everything was frozen. Chapter 3080. Although the news of the Ice Supreme Catalog's appearance might not be accurate, no one would give up even if there was a glimmer of hope. After all, these catalogs were too important to martial artists. It could be said that whoever obtained the Nine Supremes catalog first in the Nine Supremes territory could become the true overlord. Ling Xiao had already obtained the Demon Supreme catalog and the Fire Supreme catalog, so he was determined to obtain the Ice Supreme catalog as well. Out of caution, he did not reveal the fact that he had 2 catalogs. After all, those things were too precious. If he were to reveal them, even brothers might turn against each other. His relationship with Bai Fong and the rest did not seem to be that good, so he had to be more cautious. 3 of the Nine Supremes catalog have appeared in the Sword Dynasty. Interesting. It seems that the person who created the Nine Supremes catalog should be from the Sword Dynasty. Otherwise, no one would call the Nine Supremes catalog the Nine Supremes sword tactics. Although the Nine Supremes battle tactics in the Nine Supremes catalog are suitable for any weapon, even fists and feet, but the most suitable is still the sword. Ling Xiao was calculating in his heart when he heard Bai Feng continue. Generally speaking, any of the 9 Supremes catalog that appears in a certain force will be swallowed by this force alone. Compared to the illusory news of the Fire Supreme catalog, the news this time is very conclusive. Therefore, the Sword Dynasty has sealed off the borders. Only entry is allowed, no exit is allowed. During this period of time, the news should not spread to other forces. Hearing this, Ling Xiao actually heaved a sigh of relief. The fewer enemies there were, the less competition there was, and the more opportunities there were to fish in troubled waters. This is the second matter. We couldn't find the Demon Supreme catalog and the Fire Supreme catalog, so we must obtain the Ice Supreme catalog. Bai Feng gritted his teeth. What about the third matter? Ling Xiao asked. The third matter is related to you. You should want to obtain the mystic tortoise force of the Demon Dragon Sword Court, right? Bai Feng asked. That's right. Ling Xiao did not hide this matter, because such a matter would be very clear with a simple investigation. If you want to get the power of the Black Tortoise, you have to go to the Devil Dragon Sword Court first. Although the 18th sword is very strong, he needs to protect the people of the Wine Demon Mansion. I'm afraid he won't be able to help you. That's why we decided to have Long Chun, Cold Plum, and Long Xiang accompany you to the Devil Dragon's Sword Court. Long Xiang's strength is even stronger than mine, second only to Falling Moon. He should be able to block Devil Master Lan Mei. With Long Chun and Cold Plum, you should be a little safer. Bai Feng said with a smile. Just for the sake of me obtaining the power of the Black Tortoise, they sent out one of the 9 Defiant's strongest combatants, as well as Long Chun and Cold Plum. Is this really appropriate? Ling Xiao was really surprised. Of course. Although you don't treat us as brothers and sisters, we already treat you as a good brother, especially since you actually drank the poisoned blood to save Phantom. I know that that kind of thing is very dangerous. If you're not careful, even you will be killed. Bai Feng said with a smile that Ling Xiao wanted to say that that kind of thing was actually not dangerous for him. But before he finished, he was interrupted by Bai Feng. That's how it is. The rest of you will go to the Tianjue ancient ruins with me to look for the Ice Supreme catalog. When the time comes, everyone will gather there. Ling Xiao smiled bitterly, feeling a little apologetic. Brother Bai Feng, I also want to help Ling Xiao. He offended the rare goods building for me. That vixen Mong Rua who will definitely not let him go. Phantom suddenly said, I forgot about that. What you said makes sense. Once Ling Xiao leaves the Miwu Valley, he will definitely be targeted. In comparison, your side is the most dangerous. How about this? Phantom and Qing Qing will go to Ling Xiao's side. Anyway, at the Tianjue ancient ruins, it's just a search at the beginning. There won't be too much fighting. Falling Moon, Ba Dao, and I are more than enough. Bai Feng said after thinking. That's not necessary, right? Ling Xiao was getting more and more helpless. Ling Xiao, if you treat us as good brothers and sisters, don't refuse. Bai Feng said. His words made Ling Xiao choke on his words. He couldn't say anything anymore. Cold Plum reminded him at this time. The maze of the Miwu Valley has been in disrepair for a long time, and because we borrowed the formation of the ancient sages, we can't completely control it. If we all leave, what will happen to those people here? That's not a problem. Let me solve it. Ling Xiao really liked this group of people more and more now. No matter what 9 Defies did, Bai Feng and his group were really good to him. Of course, he had to do something that he could. He was best at formations. Next, Ling Xiao spent 3 hours repairing the maze of the Miwu Valley. He used more than 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones, but they were all provided by the 9 Defies organization, so he didn't need to waste his money. Ling Xiao, I didn't expect you to be so good. Not only do you know how to cure diseases and save people, but you're also so familiar with formations. It seems that we really picked up a treasure. Phoenix Bai Feng used to think that Ling Xiao was only talented in martial arts. Now, he realized that Ling Xiao was simply an all-rounder, and whether it was alchemy or formations, he was outstanding. They had also asked many powerful formation masters to help repair the formation here. Unfortunately, either the price was too high and nothing could be done in the end, or they came with confidence and left with disappointment. Who would have thought that this maze was so easily fixed? Not only was it repaired, but it was also partially strengthened and transformed. Now that the people of the Miwu Valley could freely control the maze, they naturally had more confidence in their hearts. I just learned a little more in the past. Ling Xiao said modestly, "Don't say such modest words. Rest well for 2 days. Then we'll split up and start the mission." Bai Feng laughed. Ling Xiao shrugged. "I'm not trying to be humble. I've just learned a little bit more." 2 days later, Ling Xiao, Long Qin, Cold Plum, Long Xiang Phantom, and Chong Qingqing went to the demonic dragon sword court. At this time, the demonic dragon sword court had gradually recovered from the trauma caused by Ling Xiao, especially the phenomenon of the black tortoise's birth. It could allow the demonic dragon sword court to produce countless experts in an instant. At the same time, there were countless experts who could increase their cultivation because of this phenomenon. No matter how many people Ling Xiao killed, he could use this black tortoise phenomenon to regain them. Therefore, this time, Demon Master Lan Meima was prepared to guard the power of the black tortoise with all her strength and not let the warriors of the outside world absorb this power. In the past, many warriors of the outside world could also benefit from the glory of the demonic dragon sword court. At that time, Lan Meima didn't care because the demonic dragon sword court was very prosperous. But this time was different. The demonic dragon sword court was almost destroyed. This time, the black tortoise phenomenon was the key to the rise of the demonic dragon sword court. They couldn't be careless. Chapter 3081. Ling Xiao was determined to obtain the power of the black tortoise. He wanted to increase his strength as soon as possible to find the Moon Lady. 2 things were indispensable. One was the power of the black tortoise. It could allow him to improve greatly at his current stage and obtain the ability to compete for the 9 Supremes catalog. The other was the 9 Supremes catalog. With the 9 Supremes catalog, he could definitely reach a higher level. He had to obtain both of these things. Outside the Demon Dragon Sword Court, Ling Xiao found a suitable place and set up layers of formations around it, preparing to receive the power of the black tortoise. With the black tortoise seal, the power of the black tortoise would come to him even if he was outside the Demon Dragon Sword Court. Demon Lord Lan Mei wanted to rely on the black tortoise to restore the vitality of the Demon Dragon Sword Court, but she was afraid that her efforts would be in vain. Boom! Suddenly, a loud boom came from the Demon Dragon Sword Court. Then, a giant beast soared into the sky. Its body was so huge that it was hard to imagine. That huge shadow had already covered the entire sky. The originally bright sky turned dark in an instant. A terrifying aura was released continuously, making people feel depressed. The earth began to shake as if there was an earthquake. The black tortoise earth palm. The black tortoise was the guardian beast of the black tortoise continent. Although it had disappeared a long time ago, the black tortoise with the bloodline of the black tortoise could also control the earth element. The scene was really shocking. If Ling Xiao had not set up layers of formations in advance, he would have been swallowed by the earthquake. Ling Xiao, let's begin. Focus on your cultivation. We will protect you. Long Xiang and the others stood in the formation. Before the enemy came, they could still rest here. However, once the enemy came, they would have to fight. Thank you, Brother Long Xiang. Ling Xiao nodded and took out the black tortoise seal. The moment the black tortoise seal was taken out, Ling Xiao could feel a large amount of energy being released from the black tortoise's body and poured into the seal. Overjoyed, he activated the black tortoise seal and began to cultivate. The Xian turtle's power was the purest form of energy that could be directly absorbed. Therefore, Ling Xiao's first choice was to fill his cultivation sea with this energy. Then he would continue to strengthen his foundation and break through again. The energy that he could not absorb for the time being was stored in his cells and turned into potential. He was happy. However, the others were displeased. This was especially true for Lan Mimi, the demon master of the Demon Dragon Sword Court. The black tortoise phenomenon had clearly appeared, but it did not release the power of the black tortoise. It was all rushing in one direction. This made her furious. Who is it? Who is it that dares to try and steal my Demon Dragon Sword Court's black tortoise power? When the 4 great demon kings heard the order, they immediately moved, heading in that direction together with the original body. No matter who it is, we must make him pay a heavy price. Lan Mimi was hoping that the black tortoise's power could help her Demon Dragon Sword Court recover. The current situation was completely unacceptable to him. Everyone be careful. There are enemies coming. Be prepared for battle. No matter what, we must protect Ling Xiao and let him complete his cultivation. Long Xiang suddenly stood up and looked into the distance. Ling Xiao could multitask. When he was cultivating, he also noticed Long Xiang's reminder. To be honest, he was very grateful to these people from Nine Defiance. If it were not for these people, he would probably still be being hunted all over the world. He would not have the time to come here and absorb the black tortoise's power. However, he could not spare any time to help now. He could only speed up his cultivation as much as possible. The sooner he completed his cultivation, the sooner he could throw himself into the battle. He had a feeling that as long as he could complete his cultivation safely this time, not only could he directly break through to the peak of the 17th level of hell in the first transformation of Yin Yang, he could also obtain an even more powerful black tortoise combat body. Coupled with the Imperial Celestial Dragon body, it would be even more difficult to kill. The strength of his physical body alone was enough to make his enemies despair. Therefore, he had to work harder. The enemies soon appeared. Ling Xiao could not help but frown. There were a total of 10 people. He knew the remaining 4 demon kings of the Demon Dragon Sword Court. As for Demon Master Lan Mimi, he also knew her. As for the other 5 people, he was unfamiliar with them. However, they were all martial artists at the 18th level of hell in the first transformation of Yin Yang. Judging from their attire, they should be martial artists from the Heavenly Sword Hall. With such a powerful lineup, he was really starting to worry about his own side. Long Xiang, Chong Qingqing, Phantom, Long Chen, and Cold Plum. There were only 5 people in total. They did not have as many people as the other party. Their overall strength was also not as good as the other party. This was very dangerous. Seeing these enemies, Long Xiang and the others frowned. This battle was definitely not going to be easy. They might even die in battle. However, Long Xiang's character was very simple. Once he set his mind on something, he would never turn back, even if he died. He had already decided to protect Ling Xiao with all his might. Therefore, he would not back down. Chong Qingqing did not speak much, but she had the same thought. Although Phantom was a little scared, Ling Xiao had saved her life. This was the best time for her to repay his kindness. As for Long Chen and Cold Plum, needless to say, they were Ling Xiao's comrades who had gone through life and death with him. In the past, they had been in the same situation and had long been used to it. Hurry! Ling Xiao knew that these people would not retreat or escape. However, it was because of this that he had to speed up. He could not let these people who were sincerely looking out for him die here. As long as he could complete his cultivation with his combat strength, he would definitely be able to fight against the others except for Demon Master Lan Mei. At this moment, Little Gold had finished absorbing the exotic fire seed. However, it had turned into an egg and had not hatched yet. However, Ling Xiao believed that Little Gold would definitely come out to help at the crucial moment. They still had the strength to fight against their opponents. They were not completely outmatched. It's really you. I didn't expect you to dare to come back after escaping. You're courting death. Lan Mei also saw Ling Xiao and was even angrier in her heart. The current state of the Demon Dragon Sword Court was caused by Ling Xiao. Now, Ling Xiao actually wanted to snatch their Xian turtle strength. How could she remain calm? Ling Xiao did not speak. Although he could multitask, if he spoke he would still leak his aura, which would be detrimental to his cultivation. Old woman, you're the one who wants to kill my boss, right? As expected, you're not a good person. Ling Xiao did not speak, but Long Chen could not hold it in anymore. Impudent! Lan Mei was so angry that her entire body trembled. Kill! Kill these people for me. Don't leave a single one alive. She waved her hand, and the 9 people behind her attacked at the same time. However, the first attack was ineffective. Ling Xiao's formation was not just for show. Although it could not block the enemy's attacks, it could at least delay them for a while. Together. Chapter 3082. The 10 of them started to attack continuously. The outermost layer of the defensive array formation began to sway. It looked like it was about to collapse. Although Ling Xiao was extremely worried, he closed his eyes instead. He stopped multitasking and focused all of his attention on his cultivation. This was all he could do to double his cultivation speed. As his cultivation speed skyrocketed, Ling Xiao's cultivation also continued to rise. His cultivation, already had 80% of the energy. After a while, the energy broke through the limit and rushed to the next level. Ling Xiao's cultivation had already reached the late stage of the 17th level of hell of the yin-yang transformation, and the energy was still being absorbed. At this moment, Lan Mimi and the others finally broke through the outermost defensive formation. As the saying goes, a strong person can defeat 10 skilled people. Although the formation was very powerful, it still couldn't withstand the powerful force. After the formation broke, Long Xiang and the others instantly entered battle mode. 5 against 10. Not only was there a great disparity in numbers, but there was also a great disparity in combat power. However, Lan Mimi didn't attack. She continued to charge at Ling Xiao and started to attack the inner defensive formation. Although Long Xiang wanted to stop her, it was already very difficult for the 5 of them to face the other 9 people. They couldn't spare any energy to stop Lan Mimi. Fortunately, Lan Mimi was only one person and wasn't as powerful as the previous 10 people. It was unlikely that she could break through the inner defensive formation in a short time. As soon as the battle started, Long Xiang and the others were at a disadvantage. Although they were very strong, the enemy wasn't weak either. In addition, the opponents had the advantage in numbers. Even if Long Xiang could fight 1 against 3, it would be impossible for him to win. Chang Qingqing was fighting 2 alone. However, Phantom, Cold Plum, and Long Qin could only fight 1-on-1 for now. There was still one person on the other side who could constantly move around and help the others fight for an advantage. Not long after the battle, Long Xiang and the others had already used all their strength. Long Qin transformed into a golden dragon and used all his combat power to hold back 2 enemies. Ling Xiao didn't see the battle here. His current cultivation had already entered the most crucial moment. In the sky, the black tortoise avatar had obviously become much smaller. This was the result of Ling Xiao absorbing a large amount of energy. In the end, the black tortoise avatar completely disappeared, leaving behind only a huge black tortoise pearl. If you refine the black tortoise pearl, you'll be able to obtain the powerful black tortoise's power. On the black tortoise continent, you can borrow the power of the earth element and become even more terrifying. Yuan Venerate said excitedly, "Understood, master." Ling Xiao gritted his teeth and fought even harder. He had even unleashed the peerless heavenly rat beast soul transformation to speed up the absorption and refinement. Not good. Once this brat refines the black tortoise pearl, then everything will really be over. When Lan Mimi saw this situation, she knew that she could no longer hold back. She took a step back and then used all of her power to attack the inner layer of the defensive formation. She didn't intend to use all her strength before because she was worried that the 18th blade would disrupt her plan. But now he had no choice but to make it obvious. Boom! Beautiful Devilon was truly beautiful Devilon. Under this punch, the inner defensive array formation was also shattered. Ha ha ha! Stinking brat, go to hell! She laughed maniacally as if she had gone mad. Then she charged toward Ling Xiao. At this moment, Ling Xiao was no longer protected by anyone. She knew that the time for her revenge had come. Brat, your physical body is not bad. I'll use it as a vessel for the soul of my son, Empress Lan Meichin. Beautiful Devil Lan's special martial soul allowed her to transform into a spiritual form and store it. Although there were some limitations, this was how Lan Ruo and Empress Lan Meichin had survived. But without a physical body, they couldn't move. At this time, they needed a vessel. Beautiful Devil Lan was very obsessed with Ling Xiao's physical body. Ling Xiao's physical body was even stronger than that of an ordinary life-sizer. If he was used as a vessel for Empress Lan Meichin's body, then her talent would definitely rise to the next level. Not good. Long Xiang and the others, who were fighting on the other side, sensed the changes here. They were a little anxious. If Ling Xiao was hit by beautiful Devil Lan, he would definitely die. In the past, Ling Xiao had used the heaven-defying power of the third level of the blood-sworn devil to intimidate beautiful Devil Lan. But even then, he wasn't a match for her. Now that Ling Xiao wasn't using the power of the blood-sworn devil, he was even less of a match for beautiful Devil Lan. There wasn't enough time for them to go to the rescue. None of them could have predicted that beautiful Devil Lan's attack would be so powerful that the defensive spell formation wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Cold Plum and Long Chin cried out in alarm and lunged forward, ignoring the enemy's attack. Everything happened too quickly. It happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. Cold Plum and Long Chin had only just turned their heads. The enemy's attack hadn't even landed on them. Suddenly, a blinding golden light erupted from Ling Xiao's body. The golden light wrapped around beautiful Devil Lan. Devil Orchid was a mighty life-sizer, and yet she let out a blood-curdling shriek of terror. She scrambled backward. When Dragon Mammoth and the others saw what was happening, they stopped attacking. They simply couldn't understand what could cause beautiful Devil Lan to be in such pain. What they saw was a golden crow. It spread its wings, and golden light radiated from its body in all directions. It was standing in front of Ling Xiao, shielding him. It was Little Gold. Little Gold had finally broken free of his eggshell. After being strengthened by the strange flame seed, he had undergone another shocking transformation. Now he was at the peak of the 18 hells of the Yin-Yang realm. Although that wasn't enough to compare to beautiful Devil Lan, it was enough to delay her for a while. Furthermore, he had the Yellow Springs golden light, a heaven-defying trump card that even beautiful Devil Lan would have to be careful of. Life-seizers were strong, but Little Gold was a freak born of a fusion of a devil embryo and a golden crow. His fighting prowess couldn't be ignored. Ling Xiao's life had been spared. In reality, even he himself did not know. He was still wholeheartedly immersed in his cultivation. However, Dragon Mammoth and the others breathed sighs of relief. Of course, it was only for a moment. Soon, their worry turned into anger, and they directed it at their opponents. That was especially true of Dragon Mammoth, who had transformed into a primordial Dracomamoth, and was now suppressing all three of his opponents. They had been at a disadvantage, but now they were showing signs of turning the tables. Beautiful Devil Lan was just as enraged. She couldn't believe that a bird had stopped her from killing Ling Xiao and taking his fleshly body. As for the Xuanwu Pearl, it had already been devoured by Ling Xiao. He was in the process of refining it. She was about to go mad with anger. She pounced on Little Gold, her attacks growing more and more vicious. Little Gold was in grave danger, and was almost hit by beautiful Devil Lan on several occasions. However, at the very least he had fought alongside Ling Xiao, and his strength was now so strong.